Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
They got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
Alrighty, we are back from lunch. It may be nap time this afternoon. I make no guarantees. If I start snoring softly, Weather Watch, call me on my cell phone. Wake me up. Oh man, it's a good day. It's a good day. Yeah, you saw my head bop a little bit, just a little bit, trying to get into the rhythm of the music a bit. Let's see. ASMR commercial brought to you by RA. I got the little the sound of the lid being dropped on the table. I was trying to get as many sounds as you can get associated with that. Anyway, we are back from lunch. We are back. We're back, and I didn't lose it. Here it is, right here. Adam Nusky. Adam first in chat with an hey. Adam, guess what? Guess what? Adam, you won. You won, or you lost, depending on how you view things. But you won the internet. You were first in chat. You broke the ice for everybody else to let them know the water is fine and to come on in. So you did. As soon as you did open the doors to chat, people just flooded in, which was awesome. So thank you very much, Adam. As a reward or penalty, depending on your vantage point, for doing that, you own the internet and everything IP related. It's now entirely upon your shoulders to maintain worldwide interconnectivity of all things IP related. So let's make it happen, Adam. You can do this. Thank you very much. You said I actually taped your face to my monitor. That's what I sent you yesterday. You printed out my face and taped it to your monitor while I was gone to the funeral, just so it looks sort of like regular times. That's awesome. So Adam, thank you very much for that. Kevin is here. Golden Mom, Kathy, Horse Sheet and Bananas, Shell, and Adam Murdaugh stole it. DMB, you're here as well. Rowdy, let's see, Weather Watch, Adam Nusky, the big winner for the afternoon. I just had some spicy maple bourbon pickles just as a snack after I had my fajitas for lunch. There's a little bit of a burn going on, just that little gentle heat. I like it. 80s Music Man is back. Whoever owns the internet next, I unkept the cords for you. Norma's here as well. Good to have you here, Norma. JM, Dilly Pickles. Denise Feldman, I see you. Laura, it's already up for after lunch. Who has the internet this afternoon? It is Adam, Laura. It's Adam. Christina's here as well. Victoria S., hello. Happy Valentine's Day afternoon. Let's see. Hip Hop Flip Flop is here. TW. Tracy, Canes fan. March 13. Tina P. If I can get to the bottom of chat before you guys, if I can catch up to current chat, then the roll call is done, and then everyone else will be late, right? So I just have to go faster. Karen is here. Mac, back from town. Nice out today for a change. Let's see. Weather Watch, we got you. Sharon McDonald, Karen, Ritz, Golden Girl, Tracy, I think I got you once before. Abby, UK is here. First Lady A, hey, good to have you here. Let's see. Mini Duck, Misty Farley, Tabitha, the giant rat that makes all the rules. The Creative Bee, hello Debbie, good to have you back. Eagles Prey is here. Georgia Culture, Rainbow Light. Jen, the Dutch Girl, KX Star. Oh, no, you're going too fast. I'm trying to catch up. Grumpy Cat, Heather Barnett, Richard on a Globe, I see you. Laura K. Let's see. Chris, Sassy Girl, Angie, JM. My kids are going in and out the back door nonstop. H-Frame, Lil Bit, Thal. Yes, Pickles rule. Love them. Golden Mom's here, JR. See you. Charlie Peterson. Good to have you, Charlie. I don't know what the state's going to do. The fact that they went from a really interesting witness who we really liked to a really boring one, that was just a bad move. Sharon McDonald is here. It's Valentine's Day, and Mrs. R.A. finds R.A. snoring. SB is here. Let's see. Dilly Pickles, Georgia Culture. Tag. Hello, Tag. Good to have you, Marilyn. I see you. Mr. Upper Torso, Grumpy Cat, Jenny Bailey. Let's see. Brenda Childers, Golden Girl, Mary Kay. Mini Duck, I think I got you just a minute ago. Denisa. Twisted Branches. Hello, Mrs. Wollever. Kids Can Draw. You're here. We got you. Dre, I got you as well. There it is. I think I've caught up. Samantha Terry, Morton Anderson, la 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 la. I see you kicking in the front door like Kramer. And I'm caught up. So everyone else after you is late. Everyone who's after this is late if they come in. I think that's the fastest I was able to get through roll call. So good work there. We've got a few minutes. We've got about 12 minutes to now kick back and watch all the late people file in and just sort of point and laugh, like we normally do. Let's see. Mr. Upper Torso says, the kennel guy, though, saying Alex couldn't shoot his dog. Hard to imagine he could shoot his wife and son in the face, not even in the back. That's part standing out to me from that cool guy. That was good testimony. That was good that they got that out of him. That was impactful, I think. Let's see. I don't know when that was, though. How long ago? Maggie Carr, hello there. Okay. You're late. Where's your hall pass? All right. Anyway, I'm going to rig up a couple things. First of all, I want to, while we're waiting, since we just have nothing to do, Linda's at the grocery store listening. Hopefully you're in the pickle aisle, Linda. You know what to do if you're there on the pickle aisle. Let's see. Let me see if I can get a clip. Yesterday's clip, I think it was right after lunch. Let's see. Trying to find the right clip here. Could turn the audio on, but at the same time, I don't want to confuse you guys with mixed up audio. I'm trying to find the Judge Newman saying, "Bring the jury," because I need that clip for a soundbite. I think that would be excellent. She loves. Just jump on it. That'll stick again.
About that as you do the autopsy.
Yes. Someone's been. Okay, so I think I'm about to the point on my little rewinding machine where we are. Valo Daybell update. I heard that Lori's latest filing to basically drop all the charges was dismissed or denied. I think it was during Cross. One of the dogs got injured, and they talked about having to put it down close to the end, I think. I take it you're not going to wear a kilt for my Glasgow Granny Valentine treat. This is Maggie. No, we'll pass on that one. My kilt seems to shrink over time. I didn't know that they do this naturally, just on their own kilts, actual authentic, the 100% wool Scottish kilts, which I do have one. They shrink over time. It's just because I'm pretty sure my waistline isn't growing. I'm sure that's not the problem. So what do you think so far the best evidence against Alex Murdaugh is? Probably the firm evidence. The video, Paul's video, I think is really good. Not that it proves he did anything, but it goes to his truthfulness. So that's going to be a big one. Obviously, the cell phone data, the timestamps, all the stuff that's indisputable. Basically, that's good. It's all circumstantial, though. Let's see. Happy Mandatory Romance Day, y'all. Thanks, Kathy. If somebody can find the clip of, and I'm looking for the best possible clip. I think it was yesterday afternoon, after I came back from the funeral. The judge had just a really clear. It was quiet in the background. He was the only one talking. He said, "Let's bring the jury." The courtroom was fairly quiet. I think that's a sound effect I can use. I just can't find where it's at. I just need to grab that. If somebody can clip it and send it to me on the burner phone, I'll add it to I'll make an exclamation point jury command. Say, bring the jury. That's also, they had 2 lobster tails for lunch. Not a lot of meat on those bones. Did you clip Dick bailed him out? No, DMB. I'd listened to that, and it was just hard to get. He's sort of quiet, and his inflection is just not there. It's just I couldn't make it really sound good. The problem is in context you can hear what he's saying, but if you just cut that part out, it's hard to pick up how he's talking, just the way he speaks. I'm really picky about my sounds. Probably too picky. We need a soundbite that says "bring the action" when he says "bring the jury." I love Dale. He probably loved those animals more than their owners did. He was fantastic. Great witness. And apparently still on good terms with Alex, which is you can't say about a lot of the witnesses that have testified. Let's see. Just finished my first jar of spicy maple bourbon pickles. How many slices constitute a snack? 1 jar is a snack's worth. They're sold in single serving size. SB, just for your information. I'm kilting you. You're funny. You're funny. AJ would be proud. Let's see. We need Newman. We definitely need Newman. Nothing wrong with circumstantial. They tell jurors to give it the same importance as direct evidence. Right, but I think the circumstantial evidence has to add up to the position where the jury can't reasonably, think that somebody else did it. So it has to be enough circumstantial evidence to basically convince them of that. I think Taylor Shabusiness attacked her attorney in court. Sure looks like her. There's a wild clip. Oh, my goodness. Mr. Opatorso, you know what to do with the burner phone. If you can send me a link to that, I would love to watch. I just joined and I don't have any audio. Okay, that was me going back to this other one here. Not sure if something's broken or not, but okay. I think this might be it.
Thank you.
There we go.
Next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Dr. Ellen Reamer.
Doctor. No, that wasn't her. Okay, I thought that was the bring the jury moment, but it wasn't. Okay, well, we'll figure it out.
Alex stole it.
Alex stole everything. Cell phone data, yes. Time frame board, Paul's video. So good to know. I've missed so much since this gruesome lady. They aren't providing her a quick trial, aren't they violating her rights? You're talking about Lori Vallow? How did Paul get to the farm? Where was his vehicle found? I don't know that answer to that one, Banjo. Apparently he always drove down to the kennels. I think that's what we heard. Let's see. Let's see what link we just got here. Woman attacks her attorney at the hearing of a murder and dismemberment case. Green Bay, Wisconsin. This is, looks like it's WBAY.com who produced this. Just waiting for this link to load. Taylor Shabusiness lunged at attorney Quinn Jolly and was pinned to the ground by a deputy. Shabusiness struggled with the deputy who attempted to subdue her. Additional deputies were called to the courtroom. Oh, the call was heard over the scanner. They need a code 3 in branch 2, wrestling with Shabusiness. Maybe that should be a sound effect. After the attack, Shabusiness was heard asking deputies what happened. You went off on your attorney, Taylor. You went crazy on your attorney, they responded. She was in court for a competency hearing. Man. If I were the attorney, I'd be like, can I not represent her anymore? Is that a thing? Judge, Your Honor, can I just take a hard pass on this one and move on to the next client? Oh my goodness. Okay, we're gonna have to watch this video when it's available. I can't seem to get it to pull up right now, but that's just awesome. Okay, I missed most of this morning. Did anything good happen? I saw Dick was crossing. They got tired of him. I personally don't think Dick did very well on the cross. Not that he did poorly, but I think the witness, the expert witness, the medical examiner, did a really good job. Like she's been there a lot of times. I mean, 5,500 autopsies. She's not a spring chicken when it comes to, doing these type of investigations. She knows what she's doing. She knows her stuff. She couldn't really get pushed around a little bit, even though Dick tried. He's got some creative ways of questioning where he sort of puts words in your mouth. He'll ask you a question, you'll say no, and then he'll go back and he'll sort of ask you a question with the basis as if you've just said yes to what you said no to. And she doesn't fall for that. So you can listen to that. He does that. He's done that with almost every witness so far. It's just a unique style he has. And at first she did seem a little flustered. She seemed like she was sort of knocked off a little bit because he asked her questions about, so did you see this on the autopsy? And she didn't. She hadn't seen it. And so naturally you're thinking, was I supposed to see that? Did I miss something? And I think that was going through her head a little bit, but she got right back on in the groove, so to speak, and really just stepped it up from there. Just getting a little bit of a jiggle from the camera in the court. Let's see what we have here. Just nothing yet. So double the recovery addict, double the fun. Were there two of me? Oh, one was audio only. Yeah. What did the OnStar guy testify to? He was GM, Mags, and he... thanks for being here, by the way, Mags. Love your name with the cool graphic in the name. He basically said, we found data. GM found data. I know you subpoenaed it a year ago, and the FBI spent a year hacking into it and reverse engineering it, trying to get some data out. And we're sorry, but here's the data you asked for. We found it over the weekend. Ta-da! And that was about it. And he authenticated the two, I believe it was two disks or two files, and said, I haven't really looked at it. I can just tell you that's what it is, and turn it over. So we're still waiting for somebody to interpret that for us or to give us the lowdown as to what it contains, the specific lines that are of interest to us. I think the state's done a good job showing only Alex Murdaugh, Paul Murdaugh, and Maggie Murdaugh were there. So who else could it be? It's a very narrow window for someone else to show up, especially if you have to consider that if someone does show up and does all this, they have to show up when Alex Murdaugh is not there and doesn't see them, right? Otherwise, he sort of knows what's going on. They'd have to show up and he would not hear what's happening. It seems to be unreasonable to me to think at this point that Alex Murdaugh was not aware of their deaths, whether he did it or not. That he was not aware of their deaths before he left to his mom's house. It just doesn't make sense. Who's next on the stand? I think we have more of a forensic analyst, a forensic analyst. I think is following. It's the follow the money guy, the one who's chasing the money as it comes into Alex's account. He's doing the first in, first out accounting method. So, $792,000 comes in, and the next $792,000 he spends out of that account. That's where he, If he had nothing in it, then the next $792,000 would be what he spent. So he's accounting for things that way and basically saying when he got this money in, this is where he sent it. This is where he spent it. And most of his testimony is that he can account for it with paying off some family members and things like that, people he knows, and credit card bills. So I don't know where all the drug money is going. That supposedly there was a lot of drugs involved. We haven't heard much testimony on that front. In the Jensen trial, prosecutor Jamboy said most cases are circumstantial because no one actually saw them happen. Every time I look up, you're pushing soundbite buttons.
Alex stole it.
Alex stole it. Speedy trial is not usually all that actually speedy. Right. A speedy trial nowadays could be 6 months. 3 to 6 months is a very speedy trial, especially if it's a murder trial. Look at BK. BK has not yet waived his right to a speedy trial. He waived his right to a speedy, I think, preliminary hearing, but that did not waive his right to a speedy trial. We could still have BK's case this year, and that's very likely if he doesn't waive that right to a speedy trial. Carl says, first time driving a Corvette at 140 miles per hour, I'm hooked. Carl, that's quick, first of all. That's really quick. Please be safe. But at the same time, those are some fantastic cars. They do so well. The handling is unbelievable. I don't blame you for being hooked. Nothing says you're innocent like assaulting your lawyer. I think, DMB, this was a ploy to show that she's not mentally stable since she was at a competency hearing. I think she wants a certain outcome at that hearing that might be favorable for her situation, apparently. Is the attorney okay? It sounds like he is. I didn't hear of any injuries in the story. Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction? Maybe, Georgia. Circumstantial evidence can still be good or bad, though. I don't think the state has crossed the line beyond reasonable doubt, personally.
Alex stole it.
Let's see. You're welcome, Mags. Let's see. Anyone leaning to a hung jury because the cops made a huge mess because of his name? Hung jury is definitely a large possibility in this one. Golden Girl says, just tried the pickles. I'm not a fan of pickles, but wow. I tell you, they're really good. I appreciate you tried them even not being a fan of pickles.
There's a lawsuit.
Because I'm not going to promise that everyone who likes pickles, everyone who doesn't like pickles would like these. But I'm glad you gave them a try. They are just packed full of flavor. I love them. The poor British newscaster who was pretty much assassinated outside her doorstep. Almost no evidence, but clearly a hit. Professionals know their craft. I haven't heard about that one. Is that a recent event? Let's see. Sarah Boone was like 6 years in waiting. I think she's 4. She's coming up on 4 years, Mr. Upper Torso. But the difference between her and some of the other cases is she already waived her right to a speedy trial. And once you've waived it, you can't just come back and reclaim it again when it's convenient for you. So I think she waived her right to a speedy trial right around like November 11th or something. I forget when. Can you briefly explain what the defense was trying to prove with how Paul was shot? It seems like they keep taking us down rabbit holes. Carol, yes, they are trying to take us down rabbit holes. All they want the jury to believe is there are lots of different ways this could happen. They're not necessarily saying there was somebody on top of the roof, shooting down, had the shotgun just above his head and shot him, Arguably, if the evidence supported a contact shot from the shotgun above the top of his head, arguably that could have been a position somebody was in. But all the defense wants to prove is to introduce to the jury all these other ways, differently than what the state has said, that these events could have transpired. And if in your head you're like, well, it could have been that, or it could have been this, or it could have been this, or it could have been that. Now suddenly you have all these options saying it's not exactly the way the state said it. Okay, so it could have been another way. It could have been some other person, and that's the thing. It could have been somebody else, and if you have a reasonable doubt that it could have been someone else other than Alex Murdaugh, as a juror member, you should not convict him. You should not find him guilty if you have a reasonable doubt that it could have been somebody else. It has to be reasonable, but if you have that doubt, you would vote as not guilty, as a juror. So they're trying to just introduce that doubt. Yet it seems like a weak argument with the direction of the shot because the evidence just doesn't support it. I mean, you've got physical evidence in the room. Basically the walls and the ceiling are covered with matter, okay, Paul matter, that's consistent with the scenario that the medical examiner provided, and it's inconsistent with the one that Dick was presenting. So it didn't seem like a strong point right there, but that is what they're going to try to do, and that's what they try to do with all these expert witnesses, is say, is there a different way this could have happened other than how you are interpreting these bits of information? I think it's wild how defense wants to give the idea of multiple shooters and then say possible suicide. So which is it? Heather, this is just one more thing. They want to say, could it have been a suicide? Without getting into gross descriptions of how people commit suicide involving shotguns, there are some similarities, and so they're just trying to present all this doubt to the jury and make them not be certain as to and make them not really believe what the state's told them. Alex stole the reasonable doubt. There were actually 2 reviews of subject matter, or sorry, not subject matter, spicy maple bourbon pickles on YouTube. Once they started eating, they can't stop. That's awesome. When were they posted, TW? I have not looked on those ones. I have not looked at those, but I might have to make one of my own. How did you hear about the BMSP? Oh, the spicy maple bourbon pickles. A little bit. They are the best. It was just chance. I was in the pickle aisle. I like pickles. I was buying some pickles. I thought, generally when I get ice cream, I like to get vanilla because I know I like vanilla ice cream. But occasionally I will stray into some other flavors and be pleasantly surprised. And I just took that same chance in the pickle aisle, and it was just, I looked at the shelf, and a light came down from the clouds, and I heard the angels sing, and the harp was going, and the pickles just sort of glowed, and I selected them. That's what happened. I'm sticking to that story. It's possible they are keeping so much evidence under seal because they think someone else was involved in the murders. S-Web, I say no. The only evidence they're keeping under seal is gory evidence that portrays graphic injuries or would be sensitive for the families as far as the deceased. So that's all they're supposed to have under seal. They also have included in this seal phone numbers of contact information of individuals who are not charged in this case, who are not witnesses in this case, things like that, just so the press doesn't hound them. But mostly the items under seal are just the graphic nature. I do like that they fixed the Elmo, and here finally at the end of the state's presentation, we get to see some of the evidence that we should have seen all along. Canes fan, hung jury or not, he'll still be in jail waiting for his fraud trial where he'll get life anyway. I do think the overall outcome of all these trials will be a sentence for life in prison without parole. Someone was convicted for that Mr. Upper Torso, then years later he was let go on a retrial. That's the reporter who was murdered outside her door in the UK. Defense doesn't want to solve a murder so much as not have Alex be the guilty party. You're right. The DMV, it's not their job to solve the murder. And they'll say, that's the police job. But here the police did a poor job in many situations of how they investigated this, how they handled it. Just heard someone say, all 911 calls start recording as soon as you dial it. So there is a few seconds in between. Alex was quiet till they answered. Has anyone else heard about this? Christy, yes, and I've listened to that. You hear Alex dial the number. The phone is recording on his side. It's quiet. And then as they pick up, he goes into this hysteric, sobbing accounting of what happened. And there's a sudden switch. Had he been in hysterics prior to dialing 911, I would expect there to be some sound there during that time of either heavy breathing or rapid breathing or some sort of, just like sort of what he was doing during the call itself. But I didn't hear it. I think the shooter or shooters would have brought their own guns and not used guns on the property to kill Paul and Maggie. What if the shooter did bring their own guns? That's what the state's suggesting. Is Alex definitely taking the stand? We don't know for sure. It will not be decided until the judge, pulls him aside and says, you know, you have the right. Have you consulted your attorneys? Are you going to? And he gets to choose yes or no. That will be ultimately the decision moment. But I think he's very confident. We're back in court here. He's very confident in his abilities to testify and handle the situation, and I think he will.
Be seated.
Okay, our witness.
Can we just pass on this witness? Because we've heard this all before so many times. Does the judge have a double cup today? Is that what I'm seeing? Looks like a double cup.
May bring the jury.
See, that was a bad version of may bring the jury. We need a very clear bring the jury soundbite. And I think somebody sent me one already, so I'll have to listen to those after. Dick was trying for reasonable doubt. If they can convince one jury there's reasonable doubt, they're nearly home. By pickle stock, I hear it's going to be a strong quarter. If I have anything to say about it, hip hop flip flop, it should be, at least for spicy maple bourbon pickles. Yeah, Jen, it is one word. Spicy maple bourbon. No spaces. Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna probably make my own video myself. It might be a short because YouTube's been pestering me to make a short video.
Jury is present, sir.
Okay, very good. Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Burney.
Afternoon, Mr. Griffin.
I want to be sure we understand what you've done. You did a analysis of various bank accounts, seeing deposits in and money out. Is that correct?
So for the tracing, it was specifically the alleged stolen funds. I would just trace them out as they went through the bank accounts using that first in, first out method.
I mean, did you analyze any accounts that were stolen, what you contend to be stolen funds were not deposited into?
There's probably one or two accounts, maybe stolen money didn't hit, but any account under Alex Murdaugh's name at Palmetto State Bank and Bank of America, those were the primary two accounts.
But, I mean, you're aware that he earned income as a practicing attorney?
Yes, yes.
And did you segregate that monthly income from?
Yes, so what I would do is prior to these funds going into those accounts, using that first in, first out method, I would completely deplete whatever income or deposit was in that account prior so we could separate each check out.
And you, in your testimony here today, you for the most part, limited your analysis to the $792,000 of the Ferris fee. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the only tracing we went over today.
Yeah, please don't try to go over all of it.
And you testified about essentially Mr. Murdaugh's, I guess it was a analysis of liabilities versus assets?
Right.
About whether he had enough to pay A, B, and C?
Right. So what I did for the date of June 7th, the accounts we had, I looked at balances in addition to outstanding loans. So that's how I was able to determine that.
And that was just purely balances in financial accounts, is that right?
That's correct.
And did that include any analysis of his 401k or retirement account?
No, in the balance sheet I had no, because those were in retirement accounts.
Okay.
So obviously, you have tax implications and penalties and fees associated with those.
And did that analysis include the value of any real estate holdings?
So I was just looking at outstanding, what he owed the bank.
Did that?
I didn't have up to date June 7th, 2021 appraisals for every land he owned.
Sure. And I think
Have
we
some
all
camera feed
understood
issues
your
on-
answer, but your answer is no, it
on the
did not
Murdaugh cam.
include an analysis of any equity in real estate holdings. Is that correct?
No, because I would not be able to determine that to the date.
And your analysis also did not include any interest he may have in real estate partnerships, correct?
Such as Redbeard and Zero United.
Well, let's start there. Redbeard and Zero United.
So I just had the loan statements and the outstanding principal on that, and as we know, they were charged off, I believe, in 2012, and interest was accruing, but this is just a principal balance that I was looking at.
Right,
those.
but you didn't look to see what the value of Redbeard was and the value of United was.
No, I had no idea what they would have been in June 7th, 2021.
And were you aware that he was had an equity interest in a real estate partnership that owned the PMPED law firm building in Hampton?
I became aware when I saw he was paid out of that account at the end in October, I believe. And then I would see occasionally, I called them rent checks. I think every month or so he would get a few thousand from that ownership.
But in your testimony of sort of a snapshot on June 7th, you didn't take into account the value of his interest in the PMPED law firm building, did you?
So I was looking at liquid assets, so would he have the ability that day to pay those amounts?
Okay. All right. And I take it then you also didn't take into account his ability to raise capital through borrowing money from Palmetto State Bank if he needed to.
So I was only looking at outstanding loans, so
Okay.
I can't comment whether or not he could. We know after the fact he got a loan from the bank, but at that time I wouldn't know what he's eligible for or not eligible for if he wanted to take out an additional loan.
Well, we know before the fact that he had never been turned down for a loan at Palmetto State Bank, correct?
To my knowledge, no.
Right. And we know before the fact that he had paid Palmetto State Bank in over $4 million in interest payments. Don't we know that?
I've not calculated that myself, but if that's what you're representing.
Okay. Well, we know before the fact that the chairman of the board of Palmetto State Bank's position was if Alex Murdaugh wants a loan from the bank, we'll make it happen. You're aware of that, aren't you?
That's my understanding.
So there was no, and just to be clear, you weren't telling the jury that on June 7th, Mr. Murdaugh's financial freight train was about to go off to the ravine. That's not what you were telling this jury, is it?
I was just looking at the account balances, outstanding loans, the fact that money had to be borrowed to pay back the Chris Wilson fees.
And he borrowed money from his partner, Johnny Parker. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you know before the fact that Mr. Parker frequently loaned money to other partners in the firm because the cash flow in their business was, not great until the end of the year.
I know Johnny Parker loaned Alex money. I'm not sure about the other partners, but you are correct. He did loan him money.
Now, in your analysis of the $792,000, you testified that that a large percent of the money went to associates, and then
Alex stole it.
and the rest went to pay credit card bills, right?
Generally speaking, without getting into a granular level.
Sure. Well, can you generally tell me approximately how much money of the $792,000 was sent to Curtis Eddie Smith?
There he is.
From my tracing, approximately $500,000
Of the 792.
of the 792. Yes, sir.
Okay.
$500,000 to Eddie.
All right. 1 second, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Mr. Bernie, you indicated that you were looking at liquid assets on June 7th, 2021. Is that correct?
That is.
Did I understand your testimony a moment ago correctly that that's what you were looking at?
Yes.
Alex Murdaugh.
Mr. Bernie, do you own a home?
I do.
So you've gone through the process of purchasing land before, is that correct?
A couple of times, yes, sir.
A couple of times. When you were buying, or let me rephrase my question here, did you ever sell any real estate?
I have once.
Was it an instant process, or did it take some time?
It took months.
Months?
From listing to closing, yes.
So did you get the money for your real estate right when you sold it, or did it take all the way to closing to get that money?
Took all the way to closing.
So if Mr. Murdaugh needed money from his real estate interests through sell, would that have taken some time?
I imagine, yes.
Alex Murdaugh.
Get a little pep talk from Creighton there. Little side note, Creighton plays the guitar in a band, a cover band. They sing like Eagles music.
Did I hear you correctly a moment ago in your testimony, or acknowledge in your testimony the possibility that Mr. Murdaugh paid over $4 million in interest to Palmetto State Bank on various loans?
That's what Mr. Griffin represented. I had not done the calculations myself.
As you indicated a moment ago, what was your aim again in tracing these funds?
Looking at their ultimate dispositions, where the money went to.
Did you start with particular instruments and then go from there?
I did.
And in analyzing where the funds from those instruments went, did a portion of those instruments go to loan payments?
Yes.
At Palmetto State Bank?
Yes. Loan payments at Palmetto State Bank, and
so it was stolen money they paid the interest
other
with.
Individuals.
And did a significant portion of those funds go towards paying that $4+ million in interest to Palmetto State Bank?
Yes.
And did that represent a significant portion of where the stolen funds were ultimately disposed?
Yes.
He's a good guy. He pays his bills.
No further questions, Your Honor.
But he's a bad guy because he pays his bills with other people's money.
You may step down.
It took Creighton to put those pieces
Your
together.
next witness.
Alex Murdaugh as well.
Your Honor, the state calls Marion Proctor.
Okay, at least that was quick. I think it could have been even quicker, though. Did I hear you gave a line from Alice in Chains song this morning? I did. Just a brief one. We were talking about roosters, so you can guess which line it was. I would make a parody account watching trials and completely misconstruing what they're saying to make it funny, but YouTube would ban it in 5 seconds. No, if it's for comedy. That's one of the things you can do. You just have to clearly indicate that it's comedy. I had a friend when I was in college. Still have a friend, but we joked about making a channel together where we interpreted the news into what they were really saying. So we would listen to the news story
Proctor,
and then unspin it.
Proctor.
It probably would have got us not only banned, but probably shot at.
Go ahead and tell the jury, do you have any relationship to Maggie and Paul?
I am Maggie's sister.
This is the first time she's been in court today.
Can you pull that mic just a little bit closer or slide your chair up just a little bit? So
This is Maggie's sister.
Okay.
And is that a fresh bottle of water there?
It is.
Oh, it is? That's your water?
Yes.
Go ahead and, if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself, just where you grew up, and just a little bit about yourself, so they get to know you just a little bit, please.
Okay. I grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina. Maggie,
Hey,
my dad,
Wilmington.
was my only sibling. with two parents, and we both went to college, both married, both lived in South Carolina. We've been here ever since. I'm married. I have 3 daughters, and we live in the Charleston area.
Where did Maggie go to college?
South Carolina.
Did she go somewhere else and then transfer to South Carolina?
She did.
How far apart are you and Maggie?
5 years.
And your parents, what are their names?
Terry and Kennedy.
And do y'all have any other siblings, or was it just you and Maggie?
It's just Maggie and me.
Growing up, being 7 years apart as younger folks, was that a bit of an age difference as y'all grew up?
It was. For children, that's a lot. So, I was in college. She was in high school. So we weren't super close when we were children, but later on, as our lives became more similar, we became very close.
And how long ago do you think that relationship grew very close?
When the children were little, we did a lot together. It was easy. As they got older with, their commitment, sports and things like that, it was mostly holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. And then when we both became empty nesters, we were having a really good time.
Y'all talk almost every day?
Almost every day.
I think that's where we're getting Michelle.
Maggie.
I think
How
you're
would
right.
you describe her as somebody, just so they can get an idea of who she was?
Maggie was sweet. She was kind of a free spirit. She was always up for anything that was going on. She loved her family. She loved her boys. Buster and Paul were her world. She loved my parents. We, joked how we would grow old together and take care of them. And she was just a really, really good person.
Was Maggie a tomboy at all, or was she more of a girl's girl?
No, she was definitely a girl's girl, but she made the best of having 2 boys. She was right in there fishing, hunting. She didn't grow up doing that. We used to laugh that she'd get in the deer stand with her Southern Living magazine, and the boys would tell her she was making too much noise turning the pages. And then, fishing, she loved going out on the boat. She loved being at the beach. She loved going to the islands. I don't know that she really fished that much, but she just wanted to do what they were doing. She wanted to spend time with them.
What about the Gamecocks?
She was a big Gamecock fan.
Are you a Gamecock fan?
I'm a big Clemson fan.
Y'all still managed to get along, though, right?
We got along great. We did. And we were together a lot on those Clemson, Carolina days. And we would have a big time.
Being kind of a girl's girl, did she like spending time with you and your daughters and getting a chance to do those sorts of things?
She loved it. She and my girls loved their Aunt Maggie. She always, said that she was their favorite aunt. And she just, loved catching up on all the latest makeup and, hair trends and shoes. And she just loved doing girl stuff with us.
Did Maggie work over the years, or was she focused on taking care of the boys and raising them?
She was mostly a stay-at-home mom. She had a little shop in Hampton for a while. She and Miss Libby did that together. So that was fun. She was real involved with the boys' schools, all their sporting events. I don't think she probably ever missed one. But she was mostly a stay-at-home mom.
What about Paul? Did you get to know him, obviously, as your nephew?
Yes.
Tell the jury just a little bit about Paul and what he was like.
Paul was a sweet, sweet boy, misrepresented in the media. he had such a kind side to him. He was always wanting to help. You know, Aunt Marion, does Uncle Bart need some wood? He'd bring us a load of wood. He was a kind soul, and
so I can't show him.
I loved him a lot.
Was Maggie very involved in the family finances, to your knowledge?
Not at all.
Explain to the jury a little bit, if you would.
They had a comfortable life. Maggie was happy. It wasn't a lavish life, but it was a comfortable life. And, money just, it was never an issue for her that she knew about.
That she knew about?
Right.
Until the check bounced.
I think you said you don't think Maggie ever bounced a checkbook because finances wasn't.
She didn't. She didn't. So I was the sister who balanced it to the penny and went crazy if I made a mistake in my checkbook. Maggie's was in the floor of her car with all of her bills thrown all over it, and she didn't. Organization was not her best skill.
Mr. Randolph, Paul's grandfather, did you know him?
I did.
And then his spouse was who?
Miss Libby.
Towards the end of Maggie and Paul's life, can you tell the jury just a little bit about Miss Libby's health?
Miss Libby had Alzheimer's, and wasn't too bad at first, but she's been declining for years, and it's real bad now. I think she stays in bed all day. She doesn't recognize her family, and she has to be helped to do everything. She can't feed herself or go to the bathroom or do anything.
Back in June of 2021, was her condition similar in that regard?
Yes.
Back in June of 2021, was Mr. Randolph suffering any health issues?
Mr. Randolph was really sick. He had lots of different things wrong with him, and I think that his days were coming close to an end.
In the days leading up to Paul and Maggie's death, had the family received some not encouraging news about Mr. Randolph's prognosis?
Correct. I think that they felt like everything had been done for him that could be done.
I think the text messages to her, conversations,
else done to him either.
and
it had been
Maggie's last few
road
days
for him.
might be pertinent here. We'll see what she says.
Backing up a little bit, the family, Alec and Maggie's family, properties, did they have a house in Hampton at one time?
They did. They built that house.
Okay. And did they have a beach house?
They did.
And where was that?
At a stove.
And when did they get the beach house roughly? Do you recall?
Oh gosh. I really don't know. They've had it for a long time. 15. I really don't know. I'm sorry.
And what about Moselle? They had that property as well?
Yes, Moselle was their most recent property, and it was kind of a hunting plantation type place. Great setup for hunting everything, and lots of beds for Alec to have men come out and have hunts. And
careful, I didn't know where she was going with that.
Not Maggie's favorite place to be, but the boys loved it.
Sure. And in the summertime, where did Maggie typically prefer to be? At a stow?
She loved the beach, yes.
Are you familiar with what people refer to as the boat crash?
I am.
And to your general recollection, that happened around February of 2019?
Correct.
After the boat crash, did the family, and particularly Maggie, feel like what she felt some sort of backlash in the community or some sort of negative reaction that bothered her?
She did. That was a devastating blow for their family. It was a horrible accident, but it was an accident. And Maggie felt like the Hampton community had turned against her. And Paul was being mistreated. People would say mean things to him, call him names, social media, inappropriate things were said to him. Inappropriate things were said to him when he went back to school. And it was very hard on the family. It was very stressful.
Is that also part of the reason that Maggie preferred staying in Edisto?
I think so, yes.
During this time period, did Maggie start looking for a house somewhere else?
She did. They sold their Hampton house, and she was looking in the Hilton Head, Bluffton area for something. She had been looking in that area for a while.
Okay. Did she find anything she liked?
She did. She found one house that she just loved, and she called me and my parents to come down and take a look at it. And I believe Alec was there too. And she really thought that they might make an offer on that house, but in the end they did not. I think Alec advised her that the timing was just not right with the boat case going on.
With the boat case going on? So we move closer to June 7th of 2021. I believe you testified that the family had received some bad prognosis on Mr. Randolph. Is that correct?
Yes. Maggie called me that day and said she was at Edisto. She had some men working on the house, and Mr. Randolph was not doing well at all, and Alec really wanted her to come home that night. She hadn't planned on it, but that he needed her to come home, and Paul was going to be there too. And I said, well, Maggie, I said, Alec and his dad are super close, and that's probably what you should do. Go be with him if he needs you.
She said that Alec wanted her to come home that night?
Yes.
And what was your understanding of Maggie's intent or what they were going to do that night?
I was under the impression they were going over to Alameda to visit his parents.
And that's why Alec wanted Maggie to come home?
Correct.
And that was from your conversation with her?
Yes.
She called you to let you know that that's what Alec had called her about?
Yes.
You said she was having some work done at Edisto on June 7th?
Yes, just maintenance work, getting it ready for the summer.
You encouraged her to go to Moza?
I did.
Was that the last time you talked to her?
Yes. Thank you.
You all right? Do you remember about what time of day that was?
I think it was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I think Maggie loved to call me when she was driving. She was always driving from, Moselle to Edisto to Charleston. And I think it was around 4 that afternoon.
What was the rest of your day like? Just a normal day?
Just a normal day.
Did you go to bed that evening?
Actually, we were not in bed. We were watching a movie. It was just Bart and me at home that night.
Bart, your
And-
husband? Tell me how you found out.
John, I didn't even realize this was going on. We were watching a movie, and Bart had gotten up to, I thought, go into the kitchen, and he had a text from John Marvin saying that a text from Randy saying that there had been a tragedy, and could Bart please call him on his cell phone. He had called on Alex's cell phone, but wanted Bart to call him back on his cell phone.
So what happened?
So Bart went outside and called him. So I still didn't know anything was going on, and told him that Maggie and Paul had been shot. They were
Alex
dead.
stole it.
What was your reaction?
I just couldn't believe it. I didn't think it was true. I said, there has to be a mistake. I said, there's got to be some explanation. It just can't be them.
What did y'all do after that?
We gathered up our things, and we went to tell my parents. And
Where do they live?
they live in Somerville. And my mom had just had knee replacement surgery. So when we got to Somerville, I called and I said, Mom, we're on the way, and we've got some bad news to share, but I want to be with you. And so she was sitting in her recliner chair with her leg all bundled up, and so we got there, and both of my parents were there, and I think my mom went into shock. She couldn't be still, and she just kept making these noises, and it was just the worst.
Did you go to Moselle at any point?
We pretty much stayed with my parents all night. We went back home, showered, and then we all went to Moselle the next morning.
Over the next few days, were y'all staying back in Somerville and going to Moselle, or what were you and your parents doing in Bart?
So we had family coming in from Kentucky, and some of them were staying with me, some of them were staying with my parents, but we were in Moselle every day. We were planning the funeral, we were in Moselle every day after that until the funeral.
Did that shock of finding out last for a while?
I'm sorry?
Did that shock of finding out last for a while?
It's still hard to face.
Welcome back, Mars House. Good to see you again. Thanks for checking in. Hope you're doing good.
When you got to Moselle, did you see Alex, the defendant?
I did.
Did y'all hug?
We did.
Cry?
We did.
Over the course of the next couple of days, or in the aftermath, as the shock was wearing off just a little bit, did you have any conversation with Alec about what had happened?
I didn't talk to Alec a lot. Alec was just really busy, and the whole town was coming to see him, and he was very, very, very torn up. I did at one point ask him if Maggie had suffered, and he assured me that she did not. Now, I don't know that I think that's true. And I asked if Paul had suffered, and he said no. And then later I asked him, I said, Alec, do you have any idea who's done this? I said, we have got to find out who could do this. And he said that he did not know who it was, but he felt like whoever did it had thought about it for a really long time.
Whoever had done it had thought about it for a really long time. Did that strike you as odd?
I just didn't know what that meant.
Wow.
Were you ever privy or have any discussion with anything Alex said about whether or not he went to the kennels that night?
I personally did not talk to him about that, but he told my mom that he had dinner with Maggie and Paul and then he took a nap, which he did. That was kind of a routine. He would lay down on the sofa at night after work and take a nap.
But he said he never went to the kennel.
Correct.
After your conversation with Maggie, your last conversation with her, did it strike you as odd that she didn't go to the kennels or go to Alameda with Alec?
Yes,
And why is that?
because that's the whole reason she went home that night.
Did you think from your conversation with Maggie that she was planning to see Mr. Randolph too?
I thought so. I didn't realize that Mr. Randolph wasn't there at the time.
That was a surprise to you? In the days and weeks following Maggie and Paul's murder, did Alec ever say anything about the boat case?
We would talk about the boat case, and he was very intent on clearing Paul's name.
What did he say?
He said that his number one goal was clearing Paul's name. And I thought that was so strange because my number one goal was to find out who killed my sister and Paul.
But that wasn't Alec's concern, main concern?
I know he must have wanted that too, but it just, I don't know how he could have thought about anything else.
But he talked about the boat case. Do you ever act scared or afraid that the real killers were out there somewhere or anything like that, or was he concerned with the boat case?
We were afraid. We didn't know what was going on. My family was scared. I was scared for Alec and Buster. I felt like they needed protection. I think everybody was afraid. And Alec didn't seem to be afraid.
Did he also talk about getting Buster back into law school
Yes.
after the murders? Maggie loved those dogs, didn't she?
She did.
She liked going down there and playing with them?
She did.
Would she tend to walk down there, or would she take another way to get down there?
If she was dieting, she'd walk. Sometimes she'd ride her bicycle, and she'd take her car. She'd go, just whatever she felt like. Take her car, take one of the golf cart things.
She wasn't a hunter, though, was she?
No.
What'd she think about those AR-style guns that the boys had?
She seemed to be fine with those. I remember when she wanted to give them those for Christmas, and just growing up with girls and not in a hunting world, I said, Maggie, why would you give those boys those guns? And she said, they love to shoot hogs. And which I understood that the hogs were tearing up their property, but it just scared me that the boys would have such a dangerous weapon. But I know nothing about guns, so.
One second, Mr. Brown. Thank you for testifying. Please answer any questions the defense may have.
Mr. Griffin.
Hey.
Hey. It's a weird open. Hey. They might know each other.
I'm sorry, this is hard for me too. Maggie was a very special person, wasn't she?
She was.
And she and Alec had a very special relationship, didn't they?
They did.
And they had a very special family, did they not?
They did.
And they loved to do things together as a family, didn't they?
They did.
And it just wasn't Alec and Maggie and Paul and Buster, but your parents were part of their family, right?
Yes.
And I doubt you've heard all the testimony here in court, but a lot of Paul's friends referred to your dad as Papa T. Is that what people refer to him as?
Yes.
And your mother as Grandma.
Yes.
And it sort of seemed like Paul and Buster's friends were part of your parents' extended family. Is that right?
Yes.
And you and your husband and Bart and your children, y'all would all vacation together with, not necessarily with Buster and Paul's friends, but with Maggie and Alec and Paul and Buster, and y'all did things as a family a lot. Did you know?
We did.
And Alec was really close to your parents, wasn't he?
Yes.
And he considered your dad as one of his best friends, I believe.
He was very kind to my dad.
Right. And y'all would vacation. I think you and your husband have a house in the Keys. You would vacation there, right?
Correct.
And y'all would do a lot together. You place up off Lake Kiowee. Is that right?
Correct.
And you said Maggie was a girl, but she took to the boys and learned to be a mother of two rambunctious sons, right?
She did.
And you said earlier that about sporting events that Maggie never missed any of Paul and Buster's sporting events. Is that right?
Correct.
And Alec was there right by Maggie at every sporting event, wasn't he?
Coaching.
Coaching most of the time, right? The weeks leading up to the horrific day of June the 7th, you had a family get together up at Kiwi.
We did.
And your daughter was, you're having a baby shower for your daughter, right?
Right.
You're about to be a grandmother for the first time?
Yes.
Yeah. And where was it?
When was it?
Where?
Where?
Was it? Yeah.
My daughter lives in Greenville.
Okay. And the and it was the weekend, I think, of May 21st.
I think it was the weekend before Memorial Day weekend.
Right. And I'm going to show you a photo and see if you recognize this photo. And it's defendant's exhibit.
This is still a prosecution witness.
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
I took that picture.
You took that picture?
I did.
Your Honor, we would introduce defendant's 122 in evidence at this time.
No objection, Your Honor.
Can you pull up 122, Doug?
You may be able to see this on the Elmo.
I'm not sure,
There it is.
Marion, if the jury has actually seen a picture of Maggie in this trial. She's obviously the only female here in this photo.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all favor each other greatly, right?
We do.
And this was a weekend, just a couple of, I mean, you said the weekend before Memorial Day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's Buster on the left,
Yes.
and that's Paul,
Right.
and then Maggie and Alex, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. You can take that down. Did you see Maggie again after being with her up in above Greenville?
I did not.
So that was the last time you were together with her?
Mm-hmm. She, they were at Edisto for Memorial Day, and then the next weekend was my birthday, and we were back in the upstate. And then I got the call on Monday.
And you understand, the weekend after Memorial Day, Alec and Maggie went to Columbia for a super regional baseball game with Buster and his girlfriend Brooklyn.
Right.
You were aware of that?
I am.
And you mentioned that Maggie was a big Carolina fan and Alec was a big Carolina fan, right?
They both graduated from there.
And they went to a lot of the Carolina sporting events as a couple?
Yes.
Right. And leading up to June 7th, well, let me back up. I know we've talked about this, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but Maggie did a lot for Alex's mom and dad, but didn't it make her somewhat sad to go over and visit his mother because of her condition?
Absolutely.
And it was really not high on her list of things that she wanted to do.
Maggie went there a lot. She just didn't feel like she needed to go every day like Alec liked to go.
And Alec would go every day and sometimes more than once a day.
As much as he could, he did.
And but Maggie cared for Mr. Randolph, and I know she loved him. I'm talking about she would, prepare food for him and tried to spoil him, wouldn't she?
It was the no salt diet.
Right.
And they were all struggling to cook food that he would eat with no salt.
And she experimented with different things, hopefully that he would enjoy, right?
Right. The whole family was taking turns and trying to provide meals.
And you know now that on the 7th, I think in the afternoon, and we'll establish this later, but around 4:30, Mr. Randolph got admitted back to the hospital in Savannah.
I know that now.
Right. And you said earlier that you expected from your conversation with Maggie that she was going to go over to Alameda and see Alex's parents on the evening of the 7th, but and you found it odd afterwards when you found out she didn't?
Correct.
But knowing that Alex's dad was not there and he was back in the hospital, it doesn't really seem that odd anymore, does it?
Probably not.
These long pauses make me want to study the back of my eyelids. Might just take a quick peek.
You and Bart received an awful phone call on the night of the 7th about Maggie and Paul's death, right?
We did.
And it was from John Marmon?
Randy. I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier.
And one of the requests was that you and Bart go and tell your parents in person, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know that they requested, but I knew we had to do that in person.
So you did that in person?
Yes.
And then the next day, you came to Moselle with your parents?
Correct.
And Alex, was he grieving greatly?
Oh, terribly.
I mean, people have
We were all...
described him as being destroyed. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes.
And Buster was there?
Yes.
Okay. And I jumped ahead, but leading up, Maggie enjoyed being at Edisto over Moselle in the summertime.
Correct. I think most people would.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it a lot more than being at Moselle.
Right.
But Alec had to stay at Moselle, or did stay at Moselle, because his work was right there in Hampton, right?
Right.
And Alec was constantly wanting Maggie to come back and stay with him at Moselle, wasn't he?
Perhaps. I'm not sure. I don't think he really liked being by himself.
But when he asked Maggie to come back on the 7th, I mean, you didn't think that was really an unusual request because he wanted to be with Maggie.
Right.
And didn't like to be by himself.
I did not think it was unusual, and that's why I encouraged her to do so.
Right. And you, from your conversation with Maggie, you knew that Paul was going to be there.
Correct.
Right. And do you know why Paul was going to be there? Had you heard?
I didn't know at the time. Okay. I know now.
That's it. But anyway, he and you encouraged Maggie to go be with Alec because his dad was in bad shape, right?
Right.
Now, after Maggie and Paul were murdered, Mr. Randolph died 2 days later, I believe, or 3 days. So it was a very difficult time for everyone, wasn't it?
Very.
And there were 2 funerals, one on a Saturday for Maggie and Paul, and one on Sunday for Mr. Randolph, right? And then after a day or so, did Alec and Buster come to Somerville and stay with your parents?
Yes.
And did they stay with your parents a lot after the murders?
Yes, especially Alec.
Yeah, Alec. And to your knowledge, did Alec ever spend another night at Moselle after the murders?
He did not.
She stayed with your parents. He visited with you and your husband and family down at Key West at sometime at the end of July. Is that right?
He did.
And then he and Buster came up to Greenville up at one point in time.
They did.
And then and he was staying with
Not going to happen, Charlie. I'm going to hold out.
Randy at times.
I'm good.
He was all over the place.
He was.
And, now you mentioned that after the murders that Alex said that he was very intent on clearing Paul's name from the boating accident, right? And you knew that Maggie felt very strongly that Paul was not driving the boat when the beautiful Mallory Beach came to her tragic death, right?
Correct.
I mean, Maggie was adamant. She was on a mission to clear Paul's name, was she not?
Sort of.
Sort of. And she was, and you're not critical of Alex for wanting to clear Paul's name after he was murdered, do you? Are you?
I'm not critical about that at all. I think that was his way of honoring Paul after he was gone. I just thought his priority should have been focusing on finding out who killed Maggie and Paul.
And how do you know that wasn't a priority for him?
We never talked about it. We never talked about finding the person who could have done it. It was just odd. And we were sort of living in fear because we thought this horrible person was out there, and we were mostly afraid for Alec and Buster, but we didn't know the motive behind the killings. We thought it probably had something to do with the boat case.
Right.
And we thought that up until September.
Right.
And then things started to change a little bit.
Sure. Well, were you aware that Alec started carrying a gun after the murder? You didn't know
Alec
that?
always carried a gun.
What's that?
He always carried a gun.
On his person that he started carrying a gun. Were you aware of that?
I knew he usually had one in his car.
Right.
He always had one. Conspiracy does require 2 parties. It would be hard to prove that as well, I think. Yeah. I might change my little picture to a freeze frame of me being awake. If I don't blink for like 5 minutes at a time, you'll know I've tricked you and I've fallen asleep. Ivan, I'm get you your link. I'm going to give you your link for the
I want to
hoodie.
ask you just some sort of one topic kind of questions. Bubba was Maggie and Alex's dog, is that right? Bubba could be a little hard-headed, we've heard. But
Lexi.
I'm sorry. Yes, Bubba.
Lexi, that would be
I
awful.
think Bubba could be a handful.
Tell her I appreciate the thought.
Pretty clear that
but-
Alec
but
could control
that's all
Bubba
right.
pretty well.
Yes.
And And Maggie enjoyed going down to the kennels, as far as you know, to play with the dogs?
She did.
Let's be
and she was a dog lover?
She was.
And
Alex
you're a
was
dog
allowed
lover?
I am.
And you'll have
to pull like $500,000 out of his 401k
dogs,
to pay them.
Well, you know that they didn't allow dogs in the house at Moselle
Correct.
because of, I don't know.
Allergies.
Yeah,
I'll
allergies.
text it to you.
Right.
And-
But they had a big porch, and there were dog beds all outside on the porch, and
Right.
huge buckets of water. And when I was there, the dogs were always up there at the house.
Did you know there was an electric fence around?
I did not know that there was an electric fence, but
And did Maggie and Alec let dogs in the house down at Edisto?
Alex stole it as
I
well.
think so. They stayed mostly underneath the house. She
They
had
had
a
like
pen,
Right.
big pen down there.
So they had a dog run type thing underneath the house?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And did you ever go to Edisto and visit with
Yes.
Maggie and Alec and their family?
Yes.
And would Paul's friends and Buster's friends welcome at
Always.
at Edisto and at Moselle?
Yes.
And
Maggie loved having the boys' friends around.
and I think you mentioned this, but Moselle was Moselle Paul's passion?
Yes.
He loved that place,
Yes.
and Alec enjoyed being there with Paul. Is that
Yes.
right?
He did.
And, 1 second, Your Honor.
It always seems like when they say 1 second, Your Honor, and then they just say no further questions, that they lost their train of thought and then bailed. Alex is directing the questioning here.
Just very briefly, in your own words, you tell the jury what you believe Alex's relationship was with Paul.
I think they had a very good relationship. They loved all the same things. They loved to hunt. They loved to fish. They loved to work the land. I think the plan was for Paul to take over Moselle one day. And they had a great father-son relationship.
And in your own words, can you tell the jury what you believe Alex's relationship with Maggie was?
It was good. It wasn't perfect, but Maggie was happy, and I think she was happy.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Did that open the door
May it please court, Your Honor.
to questions about their relationship?
When Maggie called you on the afternoon of June 7th, 2021,
Alex stole it.
she reported to you that her whole purpose for going home was to go with Alec to visit Alameda. Is that correct?
Objection, leading.
What did Maggie tell you her whole purpose was in going home and Alec wanting her to come home on June 7th, 2021?
She was going home to be with Alec and visit his parents at Alameda.
And it was such a point of contention that you actually encouraged her to go.
I did.
You were asked some questions about you testified about Alec not being focused on trying to figure out who killed Maggie and Paul, and then something happened in September. Is that right?
Correct.
And that changed for you as you started to look at the motive. Is that correct? That's what you just testified, correct?
Correct.
And in September, he got fired from the law firm, right?
Correct.
And it started to come out about years and years of theft and misappropriation from clients. Is that correct?
Objection, leading.
Objection sustained.
What came out in September that changed your calculus?
And objection exceeding the scope of cross.
Objections overruled.
We were on our way to a football game, and we received a phone call from a friend of ours saying how sorry they...
This issue that has not been ruled upon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have you go to the jury room. Please do not discuss the case.
I think the defense opened the door by asking her about the relationship and her feelings about what the relationship is that Alex had with Maggie. It was that last question, I think, opened the door. I think that put some pep in Creighton's step as he popped up. I think he knew exactly where he was going to head with that. I think we'll hear him argue that they did open the door. They have the right to cross-examine because this will get to the core of that situation with some different information than what the defense presented. Let's see here what happens.
Nature of the objection.
Your Honor, she was about to testify that she had heard about the roadside shooting. The state has not gone into the roadside shooting yet. Your Honor's not ruled on whether that's admissible or not. We object to under 403 as to being admissible. And substantively, that is the objection, evidence of the roadside shooting. It just opens up a whole new avenue of
no
issues.
Objection about hearsay?
Secondly, what she knows thus far would be hearsay, which is a technical objection. But
right. I think hearsay is a stronger objection here.
We object to any evidence of the roadside shooting.
Your Honor, at this point, of course, this is responsive to a question that was raised on cross-examination by Mr. Griffin, in which he testified something happened in September. So for that reason, just to begin with,
the door's open.
I believe that door is opened as to her to explain what it was that changed at that period in time, which was the nature of my question to her. Additionally, I think if we look beyond that, there is a connection, if we want to talk and have in-camera hearing about her answer and about 403 and 404, there is a logical connection between what happened in the roadside shooting and what happened on June 7th, 2021. And that connection is, of course, that the evidence will show that as the temperature increases, as there's a confrontation for Alex Murdaugh, then things like this happen. And that's what happened on September. But as it relates to this specific witness, this was an answer that came up during the defense cross, and it's fair to explore with this witness now what changed in September, which she's already testified to from a defense question.
And what was the question that prompted the response that you now indicate opens the door for this? Yes.
So in that particular question and in her response, he asked her, and he had been, of course, engaging in great detail about the family relationship and that sort of thing, and put up a picture and all the rest of it, and asked her about her assessment at that particular time, and she went in and started to explain that, and he was specifically asking about Alec being concerned about clearing Paul's name in the boat case, and then she explained further that, and he asked her if that was any big deal, and then she went on to explain her answer, and that's when she talked about how everything changed in September, and that was what I was exploring, what happened in September, which has been testimony before this jury, and I think now fair game for them to understand what happened.
I think the door's open.
In September.
All right. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, that was not the question.
What was the question? That was my question to Mr. Waters.
Have the recorder read it back.
Explained a whole lot. I don't know if he responded to my question. Maybe you will. What was the question that you posed that generated the response about her concern and her concerns changing?
The question that I asked related to her, I said, you testified previously that you didn't believe Alec was concerned about finding out who did this, or more concerned about clearing Paul's name. And then she says, well, it seemed odd he wasn't concerned about finding out who did this. And I said, why do you think he was not concerned? And then she goes into testifying, well, initially we thought it was the boating accident. And then after September, we thought perhaps it's something completely different. And
I think you
I
opened
was
the door.
exploring her testimony on direct, and she offered up the issue of the roadside shooting.
Why do you think he's not concerned? And she said, this is why. That was
I
a
didn't
direct
ask anything
answer.
about the roadside shooting, Your Honor. I was asking her why she thought Alec was not trying to, what was the basis of her belief that Alec wasn't trying to find out who did it?
I think he opened it.
All right, Mr. Waters.
And I apologize if I wasn't more clear. I don't remember the specific question, but what I do.
We have court reporters.
Yeah, we could ask
We'll
him.
have Ms. Harris, if you'll go back a bit to Mr. Griffin and his questioning of Ms. Proctor.
This is one of the first times in this trial we've had the court reporter go back and read something. I think it might have happened one other time.
And solely consumed about the, I don't know how far that was, Maggie being consumed about the boating accident, and if it's not too far back from there on up to where you are now. And if you need a break, we can take one for you to locate it.
I'm looking for the question.
Right.
You're not critical about Alex wanting to clear Paul's name.
You need to be loud enough for me to hear you at least. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, listen. Okay. You're not critical about Alex wanting to clear Paul's name. After he was murdered, are you? I am not critical about that at all. I think that was his way of honoring Paul after he was gone. I just thought his priority should have been focusing on finding out who killed Maggie and Paul. And how do you know that wasn't a priority? We never talked about it. We never talked about finding the person who could have done it. It was just odd. And we were sort of living in fear because we thought this horrible person was out there, and we didn't. We were mostly afraid for Alex and Buster. We didn't know the motive behind the killings. We thought it was probably had something to do with the boat case, right? And we thought that up until September. All right. And then things started to change a little bit. Were you aware that Alex started carrying a gun?
I think he opens the door. Come on, Your Honor. Judge Newman, let us play ball, please.
All right, Mr. Waters.
Your Honor, again, these were in direct responses to his question as he was exploring her statement about his concern on the boat case. And in fact, the reference to September was actually in response to a follow-up question that the defense continued down that line of questioning. That answer has now come out, and I think that the witness, again, is entitled and is fair game at this point before.
Testify to what changed in September?
What she meant by that. Yes, sir, what she meant by that.
And what changed in September?
Do you want me to talk to them?
Yes, ma'am.
So we received a phone call from a friend of ours who said he was so sorry to hear about my brother-in-law. And the call came in to my husband, Bart, and Bart said, "What are you talking about? We don't know anything." And he said, "Well, your brother-in-law's been shot." And We literally stopped the car, pulled over on the side of the road, and it was just the worst feeling in the world because I thought whoever had killed Maggie and Paul had now shot Alec.
And she might have been right.
Horrified that Buster was next. So we made a phone call to Buster, and Buster said his dad had been shot, but that he was okay. He was on his way or in the hospital at that time, I can't remember. And then at some point, and I'm not sure, I think I was in shock. At some point, we spoke with Jim Griffin that day, and he told us that yes, Alec had been shot, that he had been fired from the law firm because he had been caught stealing money.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Again, that's her explanation, and I believe that's fair game in this particular instance to this particular witness's testimony that had come out on cross-examination.
The jury has that date.
I probably would have.
We thought something until this date.
One follow-up additionally, I should mention as well, I think there's two other matters that probably we should explore while the jury's out, in fairness to the other side and in court, that I wanted to inquire that were in reference to cross-examination. Those are different issues. I was going
into them. Tell me what they are. So.
Sure. There were obviously extensive cross-examination about the family relationship, and there's been extensive evidence offered by the defense on cross about the family relationship. And there were two questions I was going to ask her about fidelity concerns.
There's one.
And also the Maggie and the family wrestling with opioid abuse and pill usage by the defendant. Both of those have been issues that Maggie had wrestled with and had expressed to her.
All right, Mr. Griffin.
Well, as to the, I don't know if you want me to address the roadside shooting, but that certainly, I mean, that opens up Pandora's box of 404B. They want to introduce the roadside shooting as motive. How can you have motive after the fact? And so it's not admissible. It should not be admissible under 403. But just what she says is not that harmful, but they're not going to stop there, Your Honor. And I did not open the door. I said...
You're probing her about Alex's fears. Doesn't Alex... were you aware that he started carrying a gun? Well, he always carries a gun in his car. No, but then he started carrying it in his pockets. So you're having her, cross-examining her to suggest that Alex was living in fear, as evidenced by the fact that he continued or started carrying a gun, not in his vehicle, but on his person. And she, in her response, says, well, I never, didn't appear to me that he was living in fear. I didn't know anything about that and responding to you until in September when this occurred for whatever reason. Now, with the truth of what occurred, she's not testifying as an investigator. She said she heard he'd been shot. And that gave her, changed her reason for concern in some way. Whatever that might be, I don't know. Did you still have a reason for concern? Are you about Alex's safety, or did it, was it changed? Was it altered?
That day, and for some time after that, we were very concerned for the family. We felt like someone was after them, but then we started finding out about other things that had been going on in Alex's life. And
And this is in part based on your conversation with Mr. Griffin?
This is everything that has come out since then.
Did you say that you had a conversation with Mr. Griffin?
That day that we found out that Alec had been shot, we did have a conversation with Mr. Griffin, and he's
Mr.
the
Griffin
one.
told you that he'd been fired and that he'd been caught stealing money.
Correct.
It's fair game.
Well,
Mr. Griffin's like, it's hearsay. Oh my goodness.
What kind of quandary does that put you in? Are you going to be a witness as well?
Well, that's a hearsay statement, Your Honor. Without a doubt, it's classic hearsay.
It's the basis for her fear or not having fear, which is something you, or fear or believing that Alex was in fear, that's something that you were probing. Aside from that issue, how about the family relationship issue, fidelity?
Fidelity, I don't think you'll let in.
Opioid abuse, concerns?
Your Honor, with regard to fidelity, I mean, we can hear what she says about it, but the evidence, as I understand it, is 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know how long ago, but it was more than 10 years ago. There was some issue about someone that Alec had known in college reaching out to him. Maggie got angry about that. They had a
reaching out to him 15 years ago or recently?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that Maggie got angry about it. Contacted the woman's husband, who says, it's not true. I know who she's seeing because I have a private eye on her. That led to a divorce.
You're now referring to a 15-year-old conversation.
Yes.
That's not going
to
be
then,
unless there's
then
something
the
else.
opioid stuff, Your Honor, is I'm not sure what information she's going to share about that, frankly.
Well, you had one earlier witness read a letter about him being in rehab.
That they introduced, yes, sir.
That you published.
Well, it was already in evidence, Your Honor.
All right.
Over objection.
Go ahead, Mr. Waters.
So on both of those issues, first of all, with the first...
By the way, you can step down for a break. Don't discuss your case. You're fine? Okay, good. All right.
With the issue of the first matter, I think it's certainly a fair question to say,
the treatment
did
wasn't in, but
Maggie ever express to you any concerns? Were there ever any concerns and issues with the defendant's fidelity? I think that's clearly
was it Chris
in
that said
response to
he used
the
opioids?
extensive evidence been offered by the defense.
You said, has she ever, such as 15 years ago?
Well, I think that my follow-up question would be, was that something that remained in Maggie's mind over the years up until...
and she would know that.
I think that if I asked her that question, she could express an answer to that. Yes, sir.
No. What is the answer to that?
It was an affair that happened, or Maggie thought it was an affair that happened many years ago. They were able to resolve the issues, but Maggie still brought it up.
As recently as when?
A year ago. She did not think anything was going on. It still bothered her.
All right.
May I ask a follow-up?
Yes.
During when that event occurred, did she make Alec leave the household for a period of time?
She did.
Frame when this happened. I mean,
I understand. 15 years ago, or?
How long ago was that?
It was a very long time ago. I'm not sure. A very long time ago.
This is getting good. I think we'll have a little break.
Again, I'm not trying to make it bigger than it is, but I think given the issues that have been squarely in front of the jury, the state's entitled, at least in a limited fashion, to offer this some testimony in this regard that that everything was not perfect, as the defense has repeatedly elicited. And so on that particular issue, I only propose a limited question that had Maggie ever had any concerns about fidelity, and had those concerns continued to bother her, and that would be the extent of my proposed examination of her on that issue.
We are awake now.
All right.
There's going to be a break.
Anything else?
It's 2007 is our understanding. 2007, 15 years ago.
Look at Alex.
Well, yeah, 2007 was 15 years ago. Yeah.
This is unraveling.
And that's when it occurred?
Well, that's been established. Give me something new.
Well,
other than repeating 15 years ago.
403. It's not admissible under 403. Unfair prejudice outweighs the probative value of this. Whether it still bothered her, I mean, she testified that they weren't without their problems like all married couples, but they had a good marriage. I mean,
okay. This is body language you need
addressed.
to interpret for Alex.
And it's highly inflammatory.
He's not guarded because the jury's not here.
That's why your questions have to not lead into things that might be inflammatory. We're going to be in recess for about 15 minutes.
Okay, judge has 15 minutes to think this through. He's going to go back and he may already have an idea of which way he's going on this, but he's going to go back in chambers. He's going to write up his little response. So when he comes back out before the jury's going to be here, we're going to hear from him first as he rules on these 3 items, which really just exploded because of the last question, the very last question. And if you remember, if you go back, these questions, the 2 last questions he asked were at the direction of Alex Murdaugh. As Jim went back to the table and Alex directly talked to Jim to tell him, ask these more other questions. He came back up and he asked about Paul. He asked about Alex's relationship with Paul, and he asked about Alex's relationship with Maggie. And that opened the door. So Alex himself getting involved in here, thinking that he can control what's going on and how to best rule in the courtroom, could have shot himself in the foot with this, if the judge allows this in. Now, obviously, the judge has to consider the appellate, possibility if this is allowed in. This could possibly let Ed and Eddie in connection to the drug distribution, which explains the money laundering. Yeah, we've got $500,000 going to him that we need to figure out where that went. Tony says, "I feel a boom moment coming on soon." Marcy, I have a doctor's appointment. I'll be back on afterwards. Marcy, you might miss the good stuff. We'll save it for you on YouTube. It's just hilarious. Oh my goodness. There's irony. The irony of Jim objecting to hearsay for something he said, and the judge asking him, "Well, do you want to be a witness?" Because he's basically been named. The evidence has led to him, and I don't know what happens then. I'd like to call the defense as a witness, or the defense attorney as a witness. We need Matthew in here. Where's Matthew when we need him? Let's see. He paid for someone else to shoot him in the foot. Alec is mad. Maggie's questioned marital affair last year, the witness stated. Yeah, so we've got the opioids, the marital affair, and also the roadside shooting. They might all come in because of that one question that opened the door. Just that one question. Alex thinks he's a better lawyer than his defense. Oh, man. Koski, man, we just had a shooting yesterday. Seriously? I'm hoping it's not serious, or maybe a misreport. I don't know. Alex was confident. Everyone was saying it was a loving, very loving marriage. Sharon McDonald, recovery addict. This is what we need to keep you awake. Yes, I'm awake now. Thank you. Jim stepped into this big time. Who would you ever believe who would ever believe this if you tried to sell this as a movie? Suzanne, whoever has the movie rights locked down already, because I think somebody does. They have a gold mine on their hand, a gold mine. Why did he just not go pro se like his mentor, Darrell Brooks? Easy peasy. Why is it that all these Alexes shoot themselves in the foot? Oh, man. That was going back to the last case. Let's see. Good stuff. Ven, you showed up just in time. The judge is about to make a ruling in about 12 minutes or so, that where we determine if they get to let in a lot of the juicy stuff, a lot of the stuff that we know about, but the jury hasn't heard about. The roadside shooting that Alex orchestrated, hitman for hire type thing to orchestrate his suicide, basically, and that failed. We get to hear cousin Eddie and that's going to just dive into now the money testimony will be interesting when we hear how cousin Eddie explains why he was getting paid $500,000, and will he be a hostile witness for the state, or is he going to participate and testify against Alex? That would be interesting. Imagine the prosecution questioning Jim. Can we please bring up Tingley Tinsley to question Jim? Can we just have him fill in with the prosecutors? Would that be all right? The judge maybe is trying to rein in Creighton so that he doesn't go too far. I think there might be some. Carol, my gut feels the judge won't allow all of it. Opioids, probably yes. Infidelity, probably no. And roadside shooting, I'm going to say yes. That's just my gut feel. So I think it's going to be a 2-1 as far as that goes. And Alex, you see his body language as far as his hands. He's popping candies as fast as he can, chomping down. He's not excited about this decision. He's pretty nervous right now. Alex stole the door. Waters walked right in. Just waiting on the mistress to kick the door, Prego and all. Yeah, this is the episode, the finale episode. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. I'd like to point out the joke that with the witness Proctor Jim took a big gamble. Oh my goodness. DMB Procter and Gamble. That's funny. New channel idea. I'm going to live stream your channel after you're done for the day, and while I play video games, I don't have to talk or chat, and they get to be entertained. That all sounds like a deal. I'll be okay with that until further notice. Tish says, is there anything that this trial does not have? Murder, money, paid hitmen, adultery. I think that's the short list, Tish, but I think you could go on. You've got all sorts of FBI type, the analysis, the hacking. We've got hacking into the computer system, so you can have hacking. That's of interest to me. I'm an IT nerd. You've got that. You've got private eyes. That'll come out because there was some investigations going back and forth. I don't know how far. When you open the rabbit hole and you fall in, you don't know when you're going to stop, right? It can dive and dive. We might have just added a week to the trial. SB says, Recovery Addict, this question as after he consulted with AM at the end of the questioning. AM is at fault here. Yes, 100% SB. He went back. He said, Your Honor, just 1 minute. And I made the comment. It's like they always come across as like they just lost their train of thought and then they say no further questions. But he went back, and Alex leans over to him and says, I want you to ask this question type. And he leans in closer, and Alex tells him again, it wasn't Dick talking. It was Alec to Jim saying, ask about this, ask about this. And so he came back and he said, okay, just a little bit more. Tell me about the relationship of Alec and Paul, and tell me about the relationship of Alec and Maggie. And that opened the door. Listen, it was a very loving and happy marriage until the dang dogs, says Thal. Yeah. I don't think he had an opioid addiction. I think he was on the dealing end of it. Oh, bite me. I don't think we've heard that allegation yet. This trial is one big, miserable, sucky commercial for Jim's firm. Just saying. Yeah, I wouldn't run this commercial very often if I were Jim. It probably wouldn't play well. Man, so much money, so much power. What do you think about the comment of Alex to Maggie's sister, to Marion, saying whoever did this thought about it for a long time, and no, they didn't suffer? First of all, how would he know they didn't suffer? Just think about that. How would he know that they didn't suffer? Is it just kind words? That's what she wants to hear, so I'm going to say it, even though I don't know. Or is he basically saying, no, it was quick. They went quick. I know, because I know I was there or something. Oh, man. February 22nd on the Netflix AM documentary. I'm not sure it's going to have all of this in it. I told you today was going to be crazy, Matthew. You did, right at the very beginning. I did see that chat. You said it was going to be crazy. Eddie messed up Buster's life. Yes, the roadside shooting. I think we're gonna hear that for sure. I would be disappointed if Judge Newman comes back and says we don't get to go there. The trial always gets good at the end of the day. It is. I think we've got another hour or so We might get some of the roadside shooting in, and then I can't wait to hear Creighton say, Your Honor, we're going to need another day because we're bringing in a witness, Eddie. AM strikes me as the gambling type of addiction, not drugs. I think it's just nice saying or not wanting to talk more about it. Okay, Marie, you're saying it's not a confession. As Daryl Brooks said, a tacit confession. I don't know. It's just saying what the right thing to say when somebody is suffering, to comfort them. First of all, from personal experience, says Born a Hawkeye, people don't like telling loved ones of murder victims that there's suffering involved, ever. It doesn't really happen. And so, Hawkeye, Marie, I think you're on the same page. Exactly. How would he know anything? The next statement about whoever did it must have thought about it for a long time. That really got me. Eerie and icky. We definitely need to open the door soundbite. From who? Who was it that did Creighton have a good one? Why would you be disappointed? This is a murder trial, not a failure to unalive yourself trial. I would be disappointed because I think that the legal standard has been met to open the door. And so I think if a decision is made to not allow this in, it would be simply to protect from an appeal, which I think is the wrong decision. That's why I would be disappointed. Let's see. You need to open the door soundbite. If you guys can find me a good one, remember my standards are really high on soundbites. I need a very clear open the door with no words rushing in to open the door. Like I think he's opened the door type thing. It's hard to cut off the he's with the opened. So I need to opened the door. I need them pretty clear. Not a lot of background noise either. Buster was supposed to have his dad's $10 million insurance policy after his death. Well, insurance fraud tends to make those things go away. Did Jim know Alex was stealing? He does now. I don't know when he found out. Bite Me says, recovery addict, think about it. Millions of dollars, where did it go? If it went to drugs, he would not be able to function at all. Plus, he was probably trying to pay someone off. Yeah, Bite Me, the $500,000 to Eddie, that's not, here, I owe you this for the drugs you've supplied. That doesn't sail for me. That's not a boat that'll float. You've got, that's too much money. There's something else involved. Our standards are much lower. Tags here. Where's my peeps? I sent you a video for bites. You did, and I have not done it yet. I've been making some progress, but I'm still a little bit behind. I'm still trying to get Ivan his link for his hoodie, which it's not working very well for some reason. I don't know why it's not working. I'm doing everything right, but it's just not happening. We need to call Amber and get her thoughts on this, says Michelle. This trial may be subtitled as Hoist by His Own Petard. Why, thank you, Richard, for that one. For the sound clip, open the door. How do you want me to say it? In what character? Defense, prosecution, judge, in what inflection? Thal, you need to sound like a judge. Or maybe a protesting opposition. And probably prosecution would probably be best for that. That opened the door. So if you can do it in Creighton's voice, as a protest to the judge, that's sort of like that'll put you in the setting for the sound effect we need. Is there anyone here with a unique, weird voice who can just record the clip? Yeah, send it to the burner phone. A creaking door. I'm thinking that's sort of a subtle reference. So if I played it, I'm worried that people would think like someone needs to oil that chair type of thing. A Perry Mason voice, maybe. Okay, I'll send you some sound clips on Twitter message, bro. Sounds good, Thal. I'll watch for him. You guys like the creaking door as well? I think you guys would know what it means, but anyone new to the channel would be like, why is there somebody needs to oil that door or something? They wouldn't get the reference. Got myself a Capri Sun to sip on. Or is it orange flavored DMB? Felt appropriate. The day he asked for an insurance card was the day he arranged the shot myself incident. Did you get that detail the other day and already talked about it? I didn't realize that was the same day when he had called and asked for the insurance information. We need a scary panic room. Open the door, like the bad guy screaming at us. Open the door. Open the panic room door so he can get us. That might be a little much, Tag. That's pretty intense. Catch me up. What just happened? Jennifer, we've got Marion Proctor. This is Maggie's sister. She has not been in court to this point. She was here today for the first time, and she was here because she was called to testify. And so she got called up as a witness. She's been telling us a lot about the family, about how they vacationed together, how well they knew each other, how even the parents, sort of the families was bigger than just like the blood relatives and the in-laws. It was like the in-laws and the in-laws' parents and things. There were good relationships all the way around. Well, through all of this, it wasn't incredibly, captivating until the very end when the defense on cross had basically said, the same thing they always do when they finish. They say, Your Honor, just, pardon, one more minute. Hang on, just one moment, please. And they go over to the desk, and usually they say no further questions. But Alex Murdaugh leans over to Jim and mouths some questions to him. And it's not Dick talking. It's Alex Murdaugh telling Jim, ask these questions. And he talks, and he says twice he talks to him. And then so Jim then comes around and asks two more questions. And one was about Alex's relationship with Paul, and the other was about Alex's relationship with Maggie. And the response to the relationship with Maggie included the date to the September incident. Well, that is the roadside shooting. That's when Alex Murdaugh was shot in the head by this hitman for hire type scenario. And she says, this is when things changed. And it sounds like the judge is saying that did open the door. We'll get his official ruling at the end of the break. But Creighton is going not just for that roadside shooting, but he's also going to ask about infidelity because there was 15 years ago, there was an alleged incident of infidelity on Alex's part that Maggie, even though there hadn't been anything else testified to that as far as recurrence or ongoing relationship, that she just never would let go. So he wants to ask about that. And he also wants to ask about the other thing, which completely slipped my mind. Let's see, infidelity, opioids. Sorry, yeah, there it is. His opioid use, his drug use. A boom sound effect. So that's where we are right now. We're waiting for the judge to come back. He called a 15-minute break. He's back there, basically composing his thoughts, and he'll be sharing them as soon as we come back before the jury comes out, and then we'll be allowed to proceed, one way or the other. I'm thinking 2 in. I think the opioids are coming in, and the roadside shooting is coming in, and my gut feel is that the infidelity is not coming in. I just think that's the weakest argument. How about security system alert, door open? No copyright on that. I could get the sound effect, front door, from my own security system. But let's see. Maybe he's working his way up to shake his gun in the West. Excuses. 2 at the can, 2 at the pan, 1 at the light, and 1 in the pants. Yeah. Included the month, not the date. This is absurd and is exactly why there's a time limit on prior bad acts in the trial rules, says Ryan. I think she said the September, until that September incident or something like that. I'd have to listen to the audio again, exactly how she put it. Let's see, did I save that one? Let's see. That's not it. Nope, I didn't save it. Bummer. Okay. See, I don't think the word September opens the door, says Charlie, to something that creates a motive after the fact, as the defense stated. It's not just the word September. She was talking about the incident that changed her mind as far as Alex and cause for concern. And they were talking about him carrying a gun and everything like that. That's the incident that changed her mind, when she basically found out about all his prior acts. Can you name a single thing this judge hasn't allowed in so far? Mostly, it's mostly hearsay. Occasionally he rules for the defense. Most of the time he rules for the prosecution. And either I mean, you can look at that two ways. You can look at it and say the judge is biased. He clearly is against Alex Murdaugh. I mean, he stole everything, and we're just gonna, we're gonna railroad him, allowing all the evidence, and just, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it from the vantage point that the state is very effective in how they're arguing this and how they're methodically chipping away at this defense. And every time the defense makes a mistake, they're capitalizing on it. So I personally think the judge is being very fair, at least in his argument with people, as he allows the prosecution and the defense to argue back and forth. He sort of comes down on both of them a little bit and sort of wraps their knuckles a little bit when they get out of line. But I would agree that most of his rulings seem to side with the prosecution thus far. The only thing I've seen from the state that is damning even is the GPS data and the housekeeper being pressed to lie about alibi, none of which removes reasonable doubt. Yeah, but it's just added to the pile, though, Douglas. That's the thing. That's the prosecution's trying to say with all these things together. Him lying about being at the kennels, him changing his clothes from the day, from the lying about the timeline, to pressing the housekeeper, everything he does, saying, "No, I was actually at work later," and he wasn't, and that just goes to his truthfulness. Because he has submitted an alibi, an official affidavit, an alibi, saying what happened, and it's very few items in there are actually holding up under scrutiny. The door is ajar. That would be a funny one, Kathy. I like where you're thinking with this one. Let's see. Where would that soundbite be from? I like that, Kathy. I like that idea. Open mouth, insert foot soundbite. That would be good. Alec is acting as his own attorney. He's definitely involved. I mean, he has representation, and typically representation handles everything, but he is definitely more involved than any witness I've seen in a long time. I think they've allowed plenty of evidence in this trial. Move on to any actual proof they have. They're not going to have proof. It's all going to be circumstantial. So this is their best bet. Judge is back. Let's see what we have here. That is a double cup. He's drinking out of a double cup. Yeah, Ryan, this is bizarre. You're 100% right.
The witness can testify as to her concern as to what occurred on September 7th
that's roadside.
Changed her concern about Alex living in fear. She cannot testify as to on the fidelity issue because that's too remote in time.
Okay, now I'm 2 for 2.
To confuse the jury. She can testify that she
Nailed
discovered that he'd been fired and that and that he had a drug problem.
Nailed it. I nailed it. I can read this judge like an open book.
Your Honor, depending on how the testimony goes, we would have hearsay objections if she's testifying as to what someone told her.
She's not testifying as to the truth of it. She's responding to why her concerns were changed based on, in part, of her conversations with you.
No, I understand that.
Agent for Mr. Murdaugh.
No, I understand that. The point I just stood to address is the family wrestling with opioid and pill use by the defendant. That is hearsay. If that's how she knows.
She already had a drug problem. I mean, if you want to talk about specifically, I don't know to what degree she discovered his drug problem, opioid addiction, or whatever it is, but it's already in evidence anyway.
No, I understand. I'm just advising the court that I will be making hearsay objections if that's she's testifying about hearsay.
Anything else before
this is my
jury
one time a day.
comes?
I was right today.
Nothing from the state this time, Your Honor.
All right, bring the jury.
Okay, so judge's ruling is, I was right. The roadside trial, or the roadside shooting is coming in. The infidelity is not allowed in. That was 15 years ago. That's too far back. There just was not enough evidence there. But the drug use and his opioid use, stealing from the law firm, which is sort of all tied together, that is allowed in. So 2 in, 1 out. Yes. Him claiming hearsay to something he said is the funniest conundrum I've seen in this court in quite a while. The camera is appropriately zooming out on Murdaugh when he's talking with his lawyers, probably because people are reading their lips. Now, TW, this is the chance of TW, or the chance of Cousin Eddie
overruled. You may continue.
testifying is much higher.
Ms. Proctor, when we left on the break, I was asking you what happened in September that caused you to change your assessment. Can you describe that to the jury, please?
On September 4th, we were headed to a football game, and my husband, Bart, received a phone call from a
Comes the first
friend
objection.
saying he was so sorry to hear about what had happened to my brother-in-law. And we had no idea what he was talking about. And he said, well, we've heard, he told us he had been shot. So we pulled over on the side of the road. We were all in hysterics. We called Buster, and Buster said yes, that his dad had been shot, that he was being airlifted to the hospital, that they thought hoped he was going to be okay. So we wanted more information, so we called Jim Griffin, and he told us that Alex had been shot in the head, and that he had been fired from his law firm for stealing.
What was your concern when you heard that he had been shot?
Initially, I thought he might be dead. I had just lost 2 of the family members, and I felt like they were being targeted at that point. I felt like the family was being targeted.
Subsequent to that, did your concern that the family was being targeted, did that change as well?
Over the course of a few weeks, we were still on high alert, worried for Buster, but at that point, information started coming out about some things that Alec had done financially that we had no idea about.
And that changed your assessment about what you heard about him being shot as well, is that correct? Can you answer out loud?
The shooting, that was an event in itself. The roadside shooting.
She doesn't know what to say here. She needs some guiding questions here.
You just stated that the shooting itself, the roadside shooting, was an event in itself. Did other information come to your attention that changed your assessment about the roadside shooting at a later time?
Yes.
He wants her to free spool.
And change that initial concern that Alec was somehow being targeted?
Yes.
Did Maggie have a nickname for Paul?
His little, detective.
Little detective? Mm-hmm. And what did that mean?
She felt like that he was always looking to make sure his dad was behaving.
And what specifically was the concern?
Pills. Prescription pain pills.
And had Maggie expressed to you concern over time about the defendant's pill usage?
Yes.
How long had that been going on?
I am not sure, but I think it had been going on for some time.
And did that concern continue up until recent times as we moved to their Maggie and Paul's murder?
Yes.
And what did specifically little detective mean as it related to the pills?
If there were pills in the house that his dad was taking that he wasn't supposed to, Paul was determined that he would find them.
And did that happen on occasions?
I think so, yes.
Hold on for me 1 second.
Ivan, you're going to want to back up about 30 minutes and hear the argument leading up to the 15-minute break where the judge made a decision on this. It's probably going to be about 35, 40 minutes ago now when the defense opened the door. The last 2 questions they asked this witness on cross.
What specifically changed your perception of the roadside shooting after your initial concern?
The story that was initially told about what happened came to not be true.
The story told by who?
Alec.
By Alec? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Anything further?
Are they going to cut their losses? No.
Thank you.
No more questions.
Sit down.
I think he's going to have to testify. I think Alex is going to have to testify in his own defense.
We'll call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Bart Proctor.
This is Marion's husband, I believe, or son. I'm going to say husband.
Do you
that
swear
would be an
affirm
old
any
son.
testimony you give, David, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth shall help you God?
I do.
All right, if you would, please, sir, sit in that chair over there, state your full name for the record, spell your last name, and then speak into the mic.
So this is the brother-in-law.
My name is Barton Proctor, Proctor.
Maggie's brother-in-law.
Good afternoon.
So Marion's husband, I believe.
Very quickly, tell the jury, are you Marion Proctor's husband?
For 37 years.
37 years. And obviously, over the years, as being part of this family, had you gotten to know Maggie and gotten to know Paul and gotten to know the defendant, Alex Murdaugh?
I have.
I don't want to belabor the points, but in the aftermath of Maggie and Paul's murder, were you also privy to some of the conversations that Alec had that your wife related to this jury today?
Yes.
And ultimately heard the same thing in those conversations that she related here today?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to review what's been entered into evidence as States 297, the kennel video?
I've heard it.
May I have the computer input, please?
It was on the...
We're going to watch the kennel video again. Maybe we'll get to see it
For the record, I'm going to play
directly. Let's see.
States 297.
Get back. Get back. Quit, Cash. Quit. It's okay. Come here. Come here, Cash. Shit. Close to it. Cash. Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth. Bubba. Hey, Bubba. It's a guinea. This is a chicken. Come here, Cash. Cash. Quit.
Do you recognize any voices on that video?
I recognize 3.
Can you tell the jury what voices you recognize?
I recognize Paul Murdaugh. I recognize Maggie Murdaugh, and I recognize Alex Murdaugh.
And when you say Alex Murdaugh, do you see him in the courtroom here today?
I do.
Can you point him out for the jury, please?
Yes,
or
sir.
describe him?
He's wearing a blue blazer and has his glasses on his head.
And how sure are you?
100%.
Those are definitely his glasses.
Thank you. Please answer any questions the defense may have.
Be careful what question you ask, Jim. Last time you got up here, you blew your case to smithereens. I see with my hair.
Hey, Mr. Proctor. Were you ever shown a blue raincoat by any SLED agents?
Yes, sir.
And was that blue raincoat shown to you and your wife Marion, who just was here in the courtroom?
Yes, sir. It's a picture.
A picture of the blue raincoat. And did you recognize the blue raincoat?
No, sir.
Had you ever seen it before?
No, sir.
Did you ever see Paul wear it? The blue raincoat?
I had never recognized it before.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Anything further?
Say, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You have another witness today?
Your Honor, as you're aware, there was a circumstance beyond any party's control.
Yes or no?
No, because of a circumstance beyond the party's control.
Very good.
Okay, so that's how we're going to end the day.
There are no more witnesses available today. And this is Valentine's Day. So we will recess at this time and resume at 9:30 tomorrow morning.
Okay, so the state has said we're going to let them go. I think the defense is going to ask one more time if the state's still on schedule before they actually let everyone go. So hold tight. Don't leave yet because we'll get probably an indicator if the state's really going to finish tomorrow or not. The circumstances beyond all the parties' control, I think they're talking about the GM data. And so we're probably going to have some sort of testimony that way. It may be that the state needs another day. It may be that they need 2 more days if they're going to bring in Eddie. I don't know. The judge is a lover, apparently.
Mr. Waters, the jury is gone. You can further explain if you'd like.
Yeah, we'd love to.
You can further explain
the issue with the scheduling. Yes, sir. There's witnesses that are coming forward. There's a unavoidable, unfortunate personal event that has arisen that unfortunately has affected that witness's availability.
That's Eddie.
Your Honor, and so that's why we had requested. We are late in the day, but had requested a recess for the day. Your Honor, I will say that with the side of the road issue has always been out there, and at this point, we believe there is some admissibility as to that, particularly a statement of the defendant related to that, in which there's actually a few statements, but there's one statement in particular. I don't know if Your Honor wants to proffer that at this particular time, since we have a little time available outside the jury's presence, but I do think that at some point that's a bridge, given developments, that needs to be crossed.
Yes, sir.
We have prepared a memo. We would be prepared to argue that motion, but we're not today. So we expected this to go through, no motion to be argued today. I apologize to the court, but we would prefer not to go forward with it today.
You said you're preparing or have prepared a memo?
If they prepared a memo, they're going to go forward today. Oh.
stop the jury and have them come at another time if need be, 10 o'clock, 10:30, whatever.
That stop the jury was.
Done with that. We were hoping, we were not anticipating it coming up at all.
We were hoping this evidence would not come to trial at all.
Leave with the jury yet, if you can find out, are they gone or still here? You have them hold for a moment.
It's like, hey, you guys, come on back. What's the memo for? We haven't heard the details yet. Supposedly there's something that came up with a particular witness. There's a bit of information or evidence.
Completed the memo, filed it. Your Honor has it on the 404B issue. There's a section on the roadside.
Has it been sent to me or is it being sent?
It was, Your Honor, it was filed well before trial, and it is a consolidated memo. It addresses all the 404B stuff, the financial evidence that you've ruled in, and in the section of the memo, we do address the roadside shooting. We point out that it's after June 7th. We point out that he's been indicted for insurance fraud. As a result of that, attempted insurance fraud, their theory of motive is it is just another way for him to gain sympathy when financial situations turn badly for him. But we point out that he has been indicted by Hampton County grand jury for insurance fraud for attempted suicide to obtain $12 million of insurance for his son Buster. And so we argue that it's not motive, and it should not be admissible under 403 as well.
All right, and I'm happy to talk about all of that and review what's been submitted overnight and review whatever the state may.
We're going to have a late start tomorrow for the jury,
and to hear any more argument about it in the morning prior to ruling. I've had them to stop the jury from leaving to find out how much time you all might need tomorrow morning, because otherwise I've told them to be here at 9:30 if they need to come at 10 o'clock, 10:30. Mr. Harpootlian.
Your Honor, I don't think this will take 30 minutes to argue. I would prefer to argue it in the morning simply because we haven't looked at it, and while Mr. Griffin is an extraordinary advocate, I'd like an opportunity to.
Want the jury to come in at 10?
10 would be great.
I would say 10:30 to be safe, Your Honor.
Why I'd argued against that. I'm trying to think of a reason, but I really can't.
So we're going to have the jury come in at 10:30
get some
tomorrow
lawyer
morning
fighting in the
instead
morning.
of 9:30.
Always on go.
Thank you.
Yes, the last
All
hour
right.
has been really good.
In the interim, however, if you all have something you want me to read overnight, early in the morning, happy to receive it.
Yes, sir.
I have what was previously filed now. Defendant's memorandum in opposition to motion in limine re-evidence of other crimes and bad acts, and I've ruled on a majority of this already.
We may polish that up a little bit tonight, and if so, we'll email it to your law clerk, and she, I'm sure, will get it to you.
Page 9 starts the roadside shooting discussion.
I knew it.
Our initial motion, Your Honor, in the reply also touched this ground as well, but we can do the same thing.
Middle of page 9 through the top of page 12, so you have about 2.5 pages that you might want to, if you want to supplement it, it'll be fine.
Thank you.
If you want to. And how about from the state's perspective?
Yes, sir, Your Honor, and I think I just lost my glasses. Put them up. Your Honor, if you look at our response in opposition that was filed on December 8th.
I think he's sick.
On page 19, in the factual recitation, we talk about specifically the shooting on the side of the road in response to the confrontation with Chris Wilson And then, of course, from that point on, and prior to that, there is general analysis on 404 and 403. I believe our reply, which I'm trying to put my hands on, also addresses those issues, but we can also polish up some things as well for Your Honor. There is, thank you, Mr. James. There is, starting at page 15 in the reply, it is addressed as well, the reply to their response or in that particular series of filings. It's in there, and again, we can polish that up. There is, again, there's a recorded interview and a recorded statement that we certainly can provide to Your Honor for review, that ultimately we believe they're statements of the defendant, of course, that we believe would be admissible under the theories as argued there.
I think his girlfriend is there. She likes to hide behind people, so she's not directly in the camera.
And what is the state's theory of admissibility of the roadside shooting?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. As we argued back in December, and as argued in those particular briefs, what we see is a chain of circumstances that are connected for an extended period of time that particularly highlight and start in June 7th. We've gone into, obviously, Your Honor, moving into the financial situation as it went into July and the efforts to shore up that particular money, the loans. Mr. Birney testified to that today. But of course, Mr. Murdaugh, there's already been evidence admitted
I'll explain it, Bill.
that he was $192,000 short, and that Chris Wilson covered that. The evidence goes on that in that particular interim of time, and again with the state's theory, that he's able to do his best to try to cover things up in that interim period. But then everything comes to a head, as already been testified to, in September 4th. Chris Wilson, of course, has also already testified that particular day, on September 4th, that he finally got the defendant to agree to meet with him and confronted him about that 192, which again is right at the heart of the Ferris fees, which are right at the heart of June 7th, 2021. And had that confrontation with him. The admissions that were made have already been testified to. And then with a short period of time in response to that, that the side of the road shooting happened. You've already heard testimony here from Ms. Proctor that, of course, the initial reaction of everyone is, oh my gosh, the real killers are back. And that's precisely, under the state's theory, the effect that the defendant intended. And there will be, from these recorded statements, ultimately evidence offered that was not true, and he had told lies, Your Honor, about that particular. And that would be the recorded statement that we would offer about when he admitted that he had been untruthful to law enforcement about the circumstances of that shooting. I don't intend to go into great detail about that.
You just did.
I'm just trying to get from point A to point B and then get out. I'm not trying to use the term that I've used before, gild the lily.
The statement that you referenced, that you say you want to put in a recorded statement?
That's correct, Your Honor. Yes,
What's
sir.
the length of that recorded statement?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's less than 15 minutes, Your Honor.
No, it's longer than that. No more than 30. Mr. Griffin and I were there when he gave the recorded statement. We called them to give the recorded statement.
And the gist of the recorded statement is what, Mr. Harper?
Your Honor, okay, so Mr. Murdaugh had somebody shoot him in the head on the roadside to have a $10 or $12 million insurance policy paid to his son Buster. Now, he believes it was
like, that was for me?
Suicide contestability cause, so he had somebody shoot him in the head. No question they shot him in the head. No question the intent was to kill him. He fractured his skull, had a brain bleed, was airlifted to Savannah Hospital. It didn't kill him. He intended to die.
He starts rocking.
And the recorded statement, he immediately went to detox because he was planning to go to detox anyway. Mr. Griffin and I went down to Atlanta. We met with him in detox. He'd been through a horrible experience, shot in the head, and then detox. And we informed him the police were looking for whoever shot him. And he, at that point, said, look, this is what happened. And I don't want them wasting, and literally he said, I don't want them wasting resources trying to solve this shooting when those resources could be used to find who killed Maggie and Paul. We picked up the phone. We called SWED. We put him on the phone with SWED to have him explain exactly what happened. This wasn't a result of a SWED interrogation. This was a voluntary statement. So they quit wasting resources looking for and he told them who shot him in the head, and a guy named Eddie Smith, who was his drug dealer. So that's...
And you all have brought his name up a couple of times through cross-examination. Yes. Is he on the state's witness list?
Yes, Your Honor. But, Your Honor, one aspect of that, and I think this is what highlights the relevance and the connection with this particular case, is that in the wake of the side-of-the-road shooting, Mr. Murdaugh's initial claim was that some unknown individual had a flat tire, and some unknown individual, supposedly under the guise of stopping for help, then suddenly shot him in the head. He went so far as to draw a composite artist to draw a composite photograph. Again, I'm not trying to get into too much with the detail, but that, of course, the immediate effect of that is that he's been targeted by some unknown individual. That was a complete lie, and that's the point of that statement.
If the issue here is that Mr. Murdaugh lies, I mean, really, are we at that? I mean, we've come $10 million through lies, and now this piece of evidence becomes relevant
Judge might call
because it proves he lied again months after the murder. There's no, he didn't do it, and I think they will concede he didn't do it to get some sort of sympathy. He did it to be dead. That's why he did it. And unfortunately, Eddie Smith,
I believe Dick on that,
at 4 feet, couldn't shoot somebody in the head and kill him. He meant to.
And that's what Mr. Smith would say?
Mr. Smith has given no less, I'm set up to cross-examine him, I know this, 6 different explanations for that and any other event you ask him about, from wasn't there to I was there and I saw Alec, he'd been shot, to I was there and I tried to stop Alec, to yes, I shot him in the head. But the fact of the matter is the cross-examination of Mr. Smith is something I'm looking forward to now. But this particular event had nothing to do with what happened on June 7, other than he lied about something else. And 404, unless there's a specific, it's not motive. I mean, I don't understand what the 404, 403 analysis would be on this. I know what the 403 analysis is. The prejudice outweighs the probative. The 404 is what of the 4 things that 404 is admitted for, which one is this?
Your Honor.
I know you all want to argue it in the morning, so this is just a
precursor.
Prelude to tomorrow morning.
2 things. 2 things. If Mr. Harpootlian wishes to stipulate in front of the jury that his client is a liar, the state's willing to accept that stipulation.
And not go forward with this?
The second thing is, Your Honor, is that what actually happened on the side of the road is not what's important to this particular case. What is important, Your Honor, is that it's in reaction to the confrontation with Chris Wilson about the fares fees that came to the head on June 7th, 2021, and it's about what the defendant said, that he was attacked by an unknown assailant as he was trying to change a tire, and went so far as to do a composite drawing, and it created the effect, as this investigation had gone on, that, oh my gosh, the real killers are back to finish the job. And that's precisely what he intended, and he ultimately admitted that was a lie. So the circumstances of what happened on the side of the road are not what the state is focused on. What is important is what the defendant said, how he attempted to use that, and that it was actually a falsehood. And you heard Ms. Proctor testify. It had that exact effect, that, oh my gosh, the real killers are back.
But I think the state will concede his object on the side of the road was to be dead. That's what the act was, to kill himself. Now, what happened after that? After he was taken to Savannah and had a brain bleed and a fractured skull, and when he came out of all that and realized, I'm not dead. How is that relevant to June 7? Your Honor, we can beat this this dead horse a little bit more in the morning, but allow us to give you, I don't know, this crazy idea of giving maybe some more law to look at.
All right. Is this the sole purpose of Mr. Smith's testimony, or you have other things to talk with him about?
Well, he's on the witness list. I didn't say necessarily that we're calling him. What I'm trying to do, again, is to limit the presentation to just what's relevant to this particular trial that we have here today. And so I would have...
We're talking, discussing now this motion excluding
Bill, I'm still trying to answer your question
here. Who's your
here.
witness to talk about what you're arguing?
We would have a law enforcement witness come in and testify as to the circumstances of that statement. And again, I'm trying to limit it to what's very focused to what's relevant to this trial, and that is the intended effect that he had and its reaction to the confrontation and the symmetry between June 7th and September 4th.
And do you have anything in addition to what you all provided a couple of months ago, seemingly?
Tag, send me the highest resolution copy of that you
We don't
can.
have a
I'll see if I
written
can use
document
it.
prepared at this time, but we
Obviously,
can certainly work on
I won't be able to
some
use a
additional,
brand name,
discussion
but
this
if it
evening,
looks
Your Honor.
similar to a Twix, that would be all right.
Okay, well, we'll reconvene at 9:30.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, very good.
Okay, so I need to answer Bill's question first because it was way back there. Bill was saying, I don't understand. Why was everyone, what was the loud laughter? Everyone burst out in court. What was that about? That was a situation where Jim, the lawyer who's standing there next to Paul, next to Alec, to the right of Alec, Jim was up arguing a motion about allowing Marion Proctor, Maggie's sister, to testify and say things about what she had heard about Alex's involvement with drugs and the roadside shooting and things like that. And so the judge excused the jury and then said, "Tell me more. What's I'll let you speak to this objection, basically." And so he did, and he starts explaining. He says, "Yeah, we're not going to, this is 403." He says this is prejudicial, all this stuff, the complaints there, and he says, and also it would be a hearsay objection. And the judge pointed out that the hearsay objection was literally the call that Marion was talking about was Jim. That very person, the person who was making the objection, was the person who called Marion and said, "Hey, this is what's happened." So he would be objecting to a hearsay objection about something he said, which it doesn't happen very often in court. And so the irony of that was pretty funny. And that's what the loud laughter was for. Sorry about the delayed reaction to that. It'll be a Twix bar smiling with the eyes without the Twix logo. Okay, Tag, I'll watch for that. Let's see. He's working on now. Shouldn't take long. I'll have to throw it in Canva and scale it and everything, and I can see if I can upload it for you guys. And then I still need to get a Peeps one as well, a sound effect. But Buster must be flummoxed. Yeah, it's bars and tone. Thank you. We're good right now. It's as soon as the feed cuts off that we'll have a problem, and that's about good enough. Let's see. Switcher to 4. Turn off the audio. Let's take 6. See if we can watch. Not sure if there's any audio here. It's probably going to be. It's just talking heads. Thanks, Amber. Thanks for the warning on that. Okay, it's going to be a fun day tomorrow. So we're going to hear. It sounds like a sled witness. Not sure about Cousin Eddie still. Not sure if he's going to come in at all. Obviously, the defense doesn't want him in. I think it also presents problems for the prosecution with all the different stories and the confusion. I think that is something they don't want as well. There's enough that the jury is trying to piece together in this huge puzzle that they've tried to build that they might not. Yeah, the follow-up question was, would you like to be a witness? Jim, would you like to be a witness answering questions for the prosecution? Which is just funny. That would not happen, but... a bars and tone sound bite. I can actually generate that anytime you want, but no, that's not a fun sound to hear. I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. Okay, so that was a fun day. It was a good day. I did not fall asleep, which is even better. And we got an early out. It is Valentine's Day for those that are celebrating. excited. For those that today's not such a fun day, I'm sorry. It will pass. Tomorrow will be a little better, hopefully. But yeah, we're gonna come back tomorrow. 9 o'clock tomorrow. We get to pick this up again with this case that should be wrapping up tomorrow from the prosecution standpoint. If they stick on the schedule, it should be wrapping up tomorrow. We still have not heard the evidence from GM. I'm hoping to hear that, and we still don't have a timeline witness yet that really just puts all this together and puts a bow on it for the jury to understand. Just delivers it to them and saying, "Here's what you need to know." That'll be a lot of fun to hear that. Today is a Hallmark holiday. There's the pink cuffs right there. If you like the pink cuffs, you can see those. I don't know how long he was in rehab. Not sure. I haven't seen Alec being able to take a pen in his pocket. That's the first time I've seen a pen in his pocket when he gets to go back to jail. Seems that he took them out previous days, but there he had one in his pocket. So if we hear of a breakout on the way home to the jail, maybe that's what it was. Oh, pinks for Valentine's Day. Pink handcuffs. Well, we'll leave it at that. Can prosecution just play the audio for the jurors instead of having Eddie testify? Yes, I think they can. We've heard that there's going to be a half-hour statement played, which might be a recording of Alex Murdaugh to the SLED agent talking about the roadside shooting. Will any more chase or mass shootings show up? Someone needs to call you and get those scheduled better. Bitfinex, hopefully it's going to be a quiet night. You know, it's Valentine's Day, everything else. Let's try to just have a quiet night and move on. Let's see. Love you, addicts. Hope you have a great evening with your loved ones. Debbie, you too. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Still, I'm working on getting my plaque on the wall. I've got to get some. I'm trying to find some fishing line so I can hang it and get the photograph I need to put it digitally on the wall. Yes, I'm working, Sharon. My Printify is saying that it's currently publishing, but it's been publishing since I said I was working on getting that link for Ivan for his hoodie. I don't want to publish the link. I'm only going to send it to him, quite frankly, because I don't like the price, and he says he's, within reason, he's okay with it. He really wants the hoodie, and so I'm going to make it available just for him, but we're still trying to find a better source for the hoodie that is at a price that I can feel good about selling. So we'll keep working on that. It's a good day. Today was a good day. I'm glad you guys all got to hang out with me. We had a good crowd here. We still got about 350 people. So happy Valentine's Day to all of you, to you and yours. Please, tonight when you go home, hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. As we do every weekday morning. Also, not just do we have the morning show, but this Friday we are starting Weather Watch and I, Thomas and Scott are going to talk. We're going to talk about current issues. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. We're going to talk live here on this channel in podcast form. It's going to be really fun, and we hope all of you would want to be here or at least listen in. Maybe if you don't watch, Ivan wants to be the model for the hoodie. Maybe if you're not able to watch it on the replay or anything, give us some tips, some pointers. We do want your feedback and your interaction because that's what's going to make it be awesome. Anyway, so watch for that. That's going to be Friday at 9 p.m. That's going to be a blast, probably about an hour give or take a little bit. We'll see, but look forward to that as well. So Weather Watch, can't wait on that. I'm excited. Prayers for Michigan State, MSU. Yes, to all those affected by that. That's the ramifications that are going to continue for some time. So, what time UK? Let's see. That's you guys are 6 hours ahead, so it's early morning, P. Cooper. Unfortunately, it's early morning for you. That I would give you a pass, P. Cooper, so you didn't have to be there in person because it's. But that's a 6 hour. I think we're 6 hours behind you. So that puts it 3 o'clock in the morning. That's pretty rough. Anyway, we had to pick a time, but and I realized that for UK it's not the best. But anyway, thank you guys. Oh, that's not what I wanted on the screen. How about this guy right here? Thank you all. Have a good night. We'll see you.